Arsenal score. The Gotness monster. David Raya, Matt Lucas, Matt Lucas Matt, you're to win it, Liverpool, Piers Morgan, Thierry Henry, Woodsy, Laura, you're to win, Liverpool.
Wow, the title race is on, it's wide open, big night of action across the talkSPORT network. What on earth are Arsenal doing? Playing in second gear. Wolves were shocking. You drew 2-2 with them. Unbelievable. Only a 5-point lead at the top. It's all falling apart. You got Spurs at the weekend.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range, supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
A very good morning. You're listening to talkSPORT. Here with your sports headlines. I'm Amelia Beltrao. A win and a clean sheet in Europe is an impressive start to the Vitor Pereira regime at Nottingham Forest. They beat Fenerbahce to put them on the verge of sealing the last 16, but it's a quick turnaround before their next test against Liverpool. And talkSPORT presenter and Forest fan Matt Scott says they've now got to be consistent.
The gap between Premier League and some teams in Europe, particularly in the Europa League, now there isn't the Champions League teams that drop down, is huge. And so it's a good start for the boys under Pereira, but, you know, they've got to be consistent. They've got to find a way to translate this in the Premier League.
Now, Martin O'Neill reckons Celtic's lack of spending power is holding them back from progressing in Europe.
The money in the game is major. You're talking about Premier League teams and Bundesliga sides, particularly Premier League teams paying £80 million for players don't even get into the team. So that's what you're competing against.
They're all but out of their Europa League knockout play after losing to Stuttgart in the first leg at Celtic Park. Meanwhile, Oliver Glasgow was met with boos and chants of getting sacked in the morning after Palace failed to secure a win against Strinski in the Conference League. talkSPORT's Sam Matterface was at the game in Bosnia and doesn't blame the fans.
They never really got going. They had a lot of the ball, didn't do enough with it. They didn't risk it at any stage. There was loads of opportunity to play the ball in behind.
Rory McIlroy endured rain, wind and a 3-hour suspension of play to claim a share of the lead at the Genesis Invitational. He dropped just one shot in Los Angeles to join American Jacob Bridgman on the top of the leaderboard. And on the final day of testing ahead of the F1 season, Ferrari have been looking comfortable with the most laps on the board and the fastest time. Meanwhile, issues for Mercedes and Aston Martin with breakdowns and technical issues. The season begins in 2 weeks' time in Australia.
talkSPORT News.
Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's arrest triggers the biggest royal crisis since the abdication. And actor Patrick Dempsey says he'll always be grateful for the moments of fun he shared with his Grey's Anatomy co-star Eric Dane, who's died aged 53. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit, your go-to destination for quality tyres from great brands like Continental. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com and book today.
Dry but cloudy for many. Rain spreading from Northern Ireland and Western Scotland to all areas by early afternoon. Feeling milder though.
Hello, very good morning to you. You're listening to Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and the former Aston Villa striker Gabby Agbonlahor. We're live on talkSPORT this morning, right the way through to 1 o'clock. So Crystal Palace produced a disappointing performance and were held to a draw by Zrinjski Mostar in the first leg of their Conference League playoff. From perspective Manchester United boss to being hounded out by his own fans, what has plunged the relationship between the Palace fans and Oliver Glasner to breaking point? 03717223344 is the number to call. Meanwhile, it's a huge North London derby on Sunday, with Arsenal looking to change the narrative after the midweek Wolves wobble, whilst Igor Tudor makes his Spurs dugout debut amidst a relegation battle. Also today, Adidas playing with fire with Newcastle's new home strip for next season. Is there such a thing as a good striker that doesn't score goals? We'll get Gabby's perspective on that. And does footballers' biggest battles take place in the mind as opposed to the pitch? It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Gabby Agbonlahor, and we're live on Friday on talkSPORT. Yes. Big hello to you. It is Fun by Friday. Welcome to you. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or on your connected TV app, you'll see that I'm not in the usual place. I'm in Mostar. I was with Crystal Palace last night, and their dismal performance against a team ranked 23rd in the league phase of the Conference League. Gabby Agbonlahor is back in London. Gabby, I'm a little bit surprised you came back in the studio after being schooled by Piers Morgan yesterday.
I think Piers was quite nice after he tried to come for me, but there's a lovely little flower you got in the corner there, Sam. Who got you that?
That's especially for you. I decided to include that because I know that you like the sort of finer things in life. Alex Crook is also here. Alex, you'd absolutely love this place, by the way, and not just because we had a meal and a beer for 6 people last night for less than £100. Alex traditionally loves a swim, Gabby, preferably a skinny dip. Now, Mostar has got a famous bridge. It's called the Stavi Most, which has got a 24-metre platform, for which for years has seen mainly young lads because girls have got more brains, dive off to prove their bravery to the world. Crook, do you reckon you'd belly flop that?
I'd take it on. It'd be a little bit chilly this time of year. Alan Brazil's just gate crashed the studio to tell us that you've dyed your hair, Sam.
Is that true, Sam?
It's all right. He already knows I'm Just for Men's biggest customer. That bridge, by the way, as tall as 12 Peter Crouches. 5 degrees at the moment. I'm not sure you would fancy
5 degrees is all right. That's okay. I've been in colder.
Well, I'm not sure you have. I must admit, I went up to it yesterday and had a good look over the edge. I bottled it a little bit like Gabby with Piers. No chance.
Could you see over the edge of it, Sam?
Yeah, I had to get a special step.
Ladders?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, talking of things taking a plunge, shall we talk Crystal Palace? I was in the stadium last night. The Palace fans have been here all week. They were in brilliant form on the way out to Mostar. I love Sarajevo. Mostar's a little bit quiet, I think. But a section have fallen out of love with Oliver Glasner this week. They think he threw Parish under the bus, I think, after that Sunderland game. The players aren't really responding. He looked really annoyed last night towards the end of the game because they declined to put the ball in the penalty area when they needed a goal right at the very end. But he didn't really give off that vibe in the post-match interview. They think that he has checked out, and there has been some substandard performances. 1 win in 15, and they don't want this opportunity, Gabby, to fizzle out before their eyes. It's a great chance to win a European trophy. Where has it gone so wrong? And it can't just be the recruitment, can it?
Yeah, it's not just the recruitment and, the small squad that they've got. Yes, losing Gahey was disappointing. What happened with Mateta as well? He nearly went, then he fell through with the medical. But don't the Crystal Palace fans that are in the stadium singing you're getting sacked in the morning? Have they got a short memory though, guys? Because 1 FA Cup, 1 Community Shield, got a great chance still to get through to the knockout stages of the Conference League. Be careful what you wish for, because yes, it's not been good enough, 1 win in 15, but look at his reaction when they scored the goal yesterday. He wasn't sat there just arms folded. He jumped up celebrating. I think they've got to be a bit more respectful, to be honest, Palace fans.
Crook, he did come out with some comments which sort of gave the impression that he was trying to get himself the sack shortly after Amorim actually did a similar sort of thing. And the Crystal Palace fans didn't fail to notice that.
Yeah, I think he was trying to force his exit from the football club. I mean, no doubt about that. And I know Steve Parish slept on it overnight after that Sunderland game and decided, you know what, we're not going to give you what you want. You're contracted to us until the end of the season. You've got us into this mess in terms of being potentially dragged into relegation. You get us out of it. And I don't think they are going to get sucked in now. That one win they did get against Brighton was quite pivotal, I think, in terms of putting daylight between them and the bottom three, and also because it was against their arch rivals. But for a very experienced European campaigner, he's made a mess of this Conference League competition. You know, losing at home to Larnaca when he made changes, making wholesale changes and not getting the win they needed against Coops. And they go away from home last night to a team that sound like a cocktail, let alone a football club, and they don't win. And, you know, they put themselves right up against it now in terms of the second leg. They were favourites going into the start of this competition. I think they're probably still the bookmakers' favourites. I don't think they're going to win it. And I think if they don't, it'll be on Oliver Glasner.
Morning, guys. Regarding Glasner, the breaking and turning point was when he threw his toys out the pram after the Sunderland game last month. I'm questioning now with the players, knowing he's leaving, as to whether they're actually giving him 100%. He should have gone after the Sunderland game and he should be sacked now from Liam Bromley. And Gabby, I wanted to ask you about that. You know, if you know that your manager is leaving at the end of the season, is there a change in attitude? Is there a change? Because last night they looked as if they were devoid of idea, especially getting into the final third. They didn't create enough opportunities. A couple of early skirmishes. They started the game okay, but in the second half, they were really sloppy at the start of that second 45.
I think it all depends on how the manager's leaving. You know, if it's on good terms, then of course the players will still be committed. Yeah, of course, that's what I'm saying, that this isn't on good terms. So maybe players that aren't really getting the game time they would like, players that aren't starters as well, will they switch off? Players that might be still looking for moves. Mateta's probably still looking for a move. Adam Wharton's probably still looking for a move.
Ismail Assar, I think, is one they're going to struggle to keep as well.
So maybe those sort of players looking at it now like, okay, this season might fizzle out. Is it the right decision to sack him? I'm not sure. I still think, Sam, 3-4 years ago, offer Crystal Palace the FA Cup and Community Shield in the next 4 years, they would have beat your hands off.
Yeah, but hold on. This is an opportunity to win a major European trophy. Whether or not you class the Conference League as the pinnacle, for Crystal Palace, it would be absolutely massive.
Yes.
Crook, if they don't change the manager and they allow this season to drift, they are missing a massive opportunity. I'm not advocating for him to be sacked, but I'm wondering whether or not the strategy of bringing somebody in and just giving them a pep up between now and the end of the season might actually yield silverware.
Potentially, but I think if you do that, unless you're going to hire Thomas Frank, who would seem to be a decent fit for Crystal Palace, you're probably talking about an interim until the end of the season. Is that unnecessary carnage in terms of replacing a manager this late on? I know, and I've reported it for talkSPORT.com, that Frank Lampard is someone that Steve Parish admires greatly, but he's not going to walk out on Coventry just as they're trying to seal promotion to the Premier League. There's a couple of managers in Spain on their radar as well. So I don't think there's an obvious candidate to come in and steady the ship. As I say, they're not going to go down, so it is all about this European competition. And to be fair to Glasner, yeah, they're not going to go down. But to be fair to Glasner, he named the strongest team he possibly could really last night. So there is a little bit of onus on the players as well. Brennan Johnson came in for a lot of money. He's yet to deliver so far. Jurgen Strand-Larsen had a really positive impact in the game I was at against Burnley, but by all accounts didn't really get a kick last night. So I think, you know, the players have to take responsibility as well. The mistake that Glasner made, and he did this in a fit of pique because his captain was being sold the day before a game, was making public his departure. That should have been kept under wraps until the end of the season, because it was always going to cause anxiety in the dressing room.
Do you think, though, lads, that we've seen and we've heard that maybe players are starting to throw managers under the bus to owners? Is this a case of Steve Parish maybe speaking to the players and the senior players and getting the sort of vibe of like, what's it like around a training ground? Yeah. What's it like in the team talks? Do you think that the manager has switched off? Maybe that will lead to maybe the manager being sacked if he's not fully committed or his energy is different towards the players.
Yeah.
Well, Steve Parish, obviously, is someone who absolutely prioritises staying in the Premier League. That's his main goal. It's something that he's been famed for. And even John Textor came on this show and talked about the fact that that was the only thing that he was interested pretty much. They've got 32 points from 26 games. But bearing in mind that they've won just one of the last 15, there is no guarantees they don't get dragged into some sort of relegation battle. With Nottingham Forest starting to put points on the board. Tottenham Hotspur changing their manager. Leeds United going well. It could be that they end up dropping down quite quickly, especially if West Ham pick up a couple of points in the not too distant future. They got a massive, massive fixture this weekend against Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I think unless they win that game, there's going to be more scrutiny on Oliver Glasner, and they may well decide to change him after that if they don't get 3 points, Crook.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that you have to win, but it's easier said than done, as Arsenal found out in midweek, and Wolves, despite the fact they're not really climbing the table, they're not climbing the table, that they have become a little bit harder to beat. So this is not the tap-in that maybe it would have been at the start of the season. Obviously, you've got the Jurgen Strand-Larsen connection. I'm sure he'd love to score against his former club. So you're right, this is pivotal, but I just think they probably need 2 wins, Crystal Palace, between now and the end of the season. I think they'll probably get those, Gabs.
Yeah, I think they will. But do you look at this season as the season where over 40 points you might need? You look at West Ham, the form that they're in. If they continue this form, West Ham will finish on over 40 points. Maybe Crystal Palace might need 3 wins and a draw, maybe.
That looks more difficult.
Yeah.
Good morning, gentlemen. As a Palace fan who watched that dismal performance last night, I think I'm in the major majority that would suggest that Glasner should have gone when he came out and started moaning about X, Y, and Z. He's got previous for this at other clubs. We should have known better. Yes, we had a great time with him, but that time is finished now. The players aren't interested. They know he's off. He's not interested. We should have just had a clean slate. Give this new manager a few games plus a decent pre-season, and we'll see where we're at. The relationship, I'm afraid, is broken, says Darren. 03717 223344. That is the number to call if you want to get in touch about Crystal Palace this morning. Poor performance last night. I can't say I blame Glasner at all for checking out, says John Webster. How many players have Palace sold and not replaced? I don't agree with the Palace fans chanting sacked in the morning, especially after what Glasner has done. Palace fans blaming the manager isn't a true case here. What I will say is that maybe Glasner should go now, though, before this gets toxic. I wonder if the Palace fans think it already has. 03717 223344. Do Crystal Palace now replace Glasner in order to give them the best chance of winning this Conference League? This is Sam Matterface, Alex Crook, and Gabby Agbonlahor. We're live on talkSPORT through till 1 o'clock with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deal at selcobw.com.
Right, Benfica midfielder Gianluca, how do you pronounce that? Prestiani, is that how you say it? Has denied racially abusing Real Madrid winger Vinicius Jr. in the Champions League tie last night. UEFA have announced that an official investigation has been launched after he covered his mouth with his shirt before saying something to Vinicius, which led the Brazilian reporting alleged racist abuse to the referee. The game was halted for 10 minutes before Madrid went on to win the game, thanks to an amazing Vinicius goal. The winger then wrote on Instagram, racists are above all cowards. They need to put their shirts in their mouths to show how weak they are. I received a yellow card for celebrating a goal. I still don't understand why. On the other hand, it was just a poorly executed protocol that served no purpose. Now, on the back of that, this is what I find absolutely stunning. Jose Mourinho has come out and said, when you score a goal like that, you celebrate in a respectful way. I told Vinicius, when you score a goal like that, you just celebrate and walk back. When he was arguing about racism, I told him the biggest person in the history of this club is Eusebio, and he was black. The club, this is the last thing that it is, and that's racist. We'll talk about all these comments in just a moment. Mark Clattenburg on Amazon Prime says, once Vinicius Jr. has approached the referee now has to follow protocol.
Very good morning to you. It's talkSPORT. Sam Matterface live in Bosnia after the Palace game last night. The Palace fans not happy this morning. Matt's just texted in. He says Parish needs to swallow his pride and sack Glasner today, ideally. I'm not sure that we get a result on Sunday. And then there's every chance we're out of Europe this time next week if he doesn't. He has lost most of the fan base as well as the dressing room by the looks of it. No point in him being here. May as well just get rid and stick in Paddy McCarthy in the chair for the rest of the season. He knows the club, the players, back to front. Look at Carrick at United. Interesting. I don't think they'll go out of Europe next week because I just think they'll have too much at home for Mostar, who don't win or score away from home. So I think they'll be okay. But I don't think it's a happy camp. Dan is a Palace fan. He was here in Bosnia last night and he joins us now. You were part of that brilliant 700 that came over via Sarajevo and Dubrovnik or wherever else people came from to get to Mostar. Not an easy place to go, and you weren't exactly rewarded. So what's your thoughts coming back this morning?
I'm very tired this morning, chaps. You're all right, by the way.
Yeah, we're all good. Thank you, mate.
It was a long journey. It was a really good day out, but it's just yet another Palace performance that kind of didn't need to happen. I think, as you alluded to, Glasner's lost the dressing room. He's lost the players. Adam Wharton, who's normally amazing, was poor last night. Some of our defenders, I don't know why Tyreek Mitchell didn't start ahead of Borna Sosa, who I think should be looking at an England call up at some point or another soon, because he's been amazing all season. For years he's been amazing. But Steve Parish, ultimately, last summer, spent too much time marauding around Europe, pleading his case about how hard done we are, and didn't really plan for Plan B with the Europa. So we started the season minus Eze and brought in a couple of last-minute players. And then in the next transfer window, we've let Gay go and haven't replaced him. We've got Chadi Riyad who can be there. At the moment, we're struggling for a win in the league. As you said, we should beat Mostar, but we couldn't beat Burnley. Let's be honest, Burnley were able to get one past us. Wolves are going to give us a really good game on Sunday, justifiably. Let's be fair, they're also doing well. But we probably won't get another chance to do anything in Europe for decades of a club of our stature. So why on earth aren't we actually making a go of it? Thomas Frank isn't that manager. He's never going to achieve a European thing for us. But the managers we're being looked at, maybe Roger Schmidt might be able to, but I don't know who else we get in. I don't know who. And I don't think Steve Parish gets enough pressure from the media. When Daniel Levy was under pressure all the time when managers weren't performing, but Steve Parish gets an easy ride.
I don't think that's true. I think we have called out Steve Parish for a lack of ambition. This could have been a golden season for Crystal Palace, and they didn't build on what they did by winning the FA Cup. They didn't do enough in the summer transfer window. That's where Oliver Glasner's frustration started. They did, in fairness, break their transfer record not once but twice in January. So I don't think you can really have too much of a pop at Parish or what happened there. And I look at the team last night. Obviously, there's a lot of stick coming the way of Oliver Glasner. But those players should have had more than enough to go away from home against a team of minnows in Bosnia and get the job done. Yeah,
but he's got to motivate them and he's got to come up with a tactical plan,
you've got to motivate yourself.
And hold on a second. And Dan, the other problem is that last night the tactical plan didn't work, whatever it was. For me, it felt like they weren't doing what they usually do, which is hit the wing backs from big diagonal balls when they've got a lot of possession in the back three. That has been a problem for them in the Conference League, is having a tactical plan to deal with the fact they've got more of the ball. In the Premier League, they're brilliant when they're counter-attacking, but in the Conference League, they're the big team. So they have to take matches to the opponents, and they just haven't found a way to do that properly this season under Glasner.
But any team we play against, like Burnley did exactly the same. You play a low block, but you're right, tactically we don't do it, but we do. There are gaps in defences that we don't utilise because it's like they've been drilled to play the ball sideways and backwards, not forwards. And that's Glasner doing that. Glasner's got to go, ultimately, and sooner rather than later, because our season hinges upon next
You change
week.
him now. That's what you're saying. Change him now.
If we've got some... Right, the issue for me is the backroom staff. So if Glasner goes, he takes all his friends with him, and we've got nobody. I mean, they'll be under contract, of course, but they're not going to want to stay, are they? So we need to get someone in, and hopefully someone's been doing some...
Won the FA Cup last season, by the way. Wow.
I know, and I'd love to keep him with last season's mentality, but he hasn't got that because he was let down by Parish in the summer, and instead of being professional about it, right, go and let's get on with it, he threw his toys out the pram. And it's not acceptable. He's tainted his legacy with us, and ultimately he's probably tainted his legacy with other clubs that might have been looking at him as well.
No, it's a great point he makes about other clubs, because actually on our running order here, crafted by referee Joe, he says he's gone, Glasner, from prospective Man United boss to being hounded out by his own fans. I don't think he was ever prospective Man United boss, Oliver Glasner. You know, the style of play isn't really befitting of what Manchester United fans see. And I think when he came out after that Sunderland game and threw his owners under the bus, that would have really raised eyebrows at any club that were looking to hire Oliver Glasner. And you look at their form in Europe, maybe he's not quite as good as people think he is.
Well, certainly not. And Gabby, I mean, it did take him until 26 minutes past 11 to turn a Crystal Palace debate into a Manchester United one.
It's on the running order.
But Gabby, you say he won the FA Cup last year, but how much does that count for anything when you're trying to continue to try for European glory this season? They've won one match in 15 games. That's not a great level of form. And if 100%. You continue down that zone, they'll end up getting relegated and throw away this chance of doing something special in Europe.
In the Premier League?
But we've not even mentioned the Macclesfield debacle. The first FA Cup holders in 100 years to get knocked out by a non-league
I totally get that. Look,
that was a shameful way to go.
Brighton haven't got rid of their manager. Look at what Brighton are doing this season. Similar,
but their manager hasn't checked out. That's the feeling of the fans.
Their manager hasn't won an FA Cup. First ever trophy, was it, with Crystal Palace? Community Shield as well. I think he's got some credit in the bank for me. Be careful what you wish for. What that manager has done for that club. Everyone's saying he's the best ever Crystal Palace manager. All of a sudden now, oh no, he's ruined his legacy at the club. That's too much for me.
But put yourself in a player's shoes, right? Day in, day out at the training ground. During his team talk at half-time last night when it wasn't going particularly well, he's trying to give these players the instructions. There'll be a small part, if you're that way inclined, of the players thinking, well, I'm not going to listen to you. You're not going to be here come the end of the season.
I get that, but like you said earlier, and Sam disagreed with, surely as a player, motivate yourself. The quality
Gabby,
that they had last night.
When you were at Aston Villa, didn't you once tell a manager that you were going to outlive him?
Yeah, outlive him.
Well, you're going to be at Aston Villa longer than he was. Didn't you say that to him?
Yeah, of course.
You know that feeling.
Yeah, but I think this is different, isn't it? That was a manager who was a terrible, terrible manager throughout his career. This is a manager, Glasner, who just won you an FA Cup, first trophy for Crystal Palace, followed by a Community Shield. I don't know. For me, I think it's a bit harsh on him.
03717223344. People like Mateta, Walton and Sani to pull up their big boy pants and put their all into it, says John. Surely if they put in performances and win the Conference League, they'll be in a better place to secure a move away from the club. He's absolutely right there. They keep playing the way they are right now. Who in their right mind would want to sign for them? I still keep going back to the fact that there is a completely different tactical plan required when you're playing in the Conference League. Your Crystal Palace's major strengths last season was hitting on the counter-attack. They did it brilliantly in the FA Cup final to win their first ever major trophy. But when you go and play in the Conference League, they're the biggest team in that competition. So the expectation is, and the pattern, we've seen it over the course of the 7 games that they've played in it, is that you have to take the game to the opposition. They haven't found a way to do that this season with any real consistency. And that has to be the responsibility of the manager. 03717223344. That's the number to call if you want to get in touch. You can text us 81089. You can WhatsApp us on the usual number as well. It's 03717223344. North London Derby is this weekend. It's massive for both Arsenal and Tottenham.
Gabby in particular was, quote, desperate to talk to me. Every sinew of my torso was screaming, I'd rather shoot myself with a rusty World War I rifle. And then I thought, you know what? We've had enough Arsenal bottle jobs for one 12-hour period. It's actually time to face the music, face the pressure, stand up and show this Arsenal team what you do when the heat is on. You don't run away, you don't hide, you actually stand up and you take them on, which is something we singularly failed to do last night.
What's this going to tell us about Mikel this weekend coming up? Here's Arsenal strong favourites to beat Tottenham.
Well, I couldn't think of a better place to go, frankly, than Tottenham on Sunday. And I'm presuming that between now and then, Mikel Arteta, who I've become a massive fan of, I think he's going to read them the riot act quite rightly. And I think he's going to ask them, all of them individually, well, how much do you want this? You know, you can be chokers again, as we have been for the last 3 seasons. We have, I still believe, it was a good debate that came after the last time I was on about the strength and depth of the squad. But frankly, last night, the kind of history I thought we might make this season did not include the fact that, did you know this? That there has been no side that's been top of the Premier League in history that has ever choked a 2.
A win and a clean sheet in Europe while being unfazed by a hostile reception in Istanbul is an impressive start to the Vitor Pereira regime at Nottingham Forest. They beat Fenerbahce to put them on the verge of sealing the last 16, but it's a quick turnaround before their next test against Liverpool. Meanwhile, Martin O'Neill has slammed Celtic fan protests, which halted their Europa League loss to Stuttgart. Protesters threw tennis balls onto the pitch inside the opening seconds to highlight their frustration with the club's board.
Anybody who thinks that's a good idea needs their heads examining. One, it disrupts the game for a start, obviously. And secondly, if I'm a Stuttgart player, I'm thinking, yeah, well, don't feel too bad here. Don't feel too bad, instead of being intimidated by the situation.
That match marked O'Neill's 1,000th game as a manager. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace fans taunted Oliver Glasner with sacked in the morning chants after a drab draw with Zrinski in the Conference League. Their slump worsened to 1 win in 15. It's the Steel City derby on Sunday as United host Wednesday. Even a win might not be enough to keep the Owls out of relegation, and Steve Bracknell knows it's going to be tough.
This could be our darkest hour. And one day, when this club recovers, we'll remember that day.
Yeah.
We'll remember that day. And we'll look back on it and go, yeah, I was there.
And in Italy, Great Britain are guaranteed at least silver in the men's curling. They beat Switzerland and will now face Canada in the final.
Yeah, very good morning to you. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Gabby Agbonlahor. We're live and through until 1 o'clock this afternoon. That live football you just heard about, Manchester City against Newcastle tomorrow night, huge in the title race. Kicks off 8 o'clock. We'll be live at the Etihad Stadium from 7:30. Really looking forward to that with Stuart Pearce and Ian Danter tomorrow night.
Sorry.
Absolutely, definitely going to come back for that.
Have you noticed?
I couldn't get back to see you.
Have you noticed, by the way, Gabs, he's looking more and more like Rylan every day, isn't he?
Oh!
Hold on. You once said that, I think, publicly on X or Twitter, as it was, and he got very offended about that. So
Rylan did.
Don't drag his name into it, poor lad. Game day live tomorrow. Adrian Durham, Scott Minto and Dean Ashton will bring you all the goals as they're going. Crookie and I are going to the North London Derby on Sunday. We'll bring you updates from the Premier League, the FL, the Women's FA Cup. And, of course, that game between Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. Nottingham Forest winning last night live on talkSPORT. Crook did the game. And maybe the idea of changing manager every 3 months is not a bad recipe for success. After all, this was the view of Morgan Gibbs-White straight after the match.
I think his message to us is that we're going to have a real identity of how we play and how we defend as a team. I feel like him and his staff have brought a real positive energy into the group, and we've all brought into what he wants straight away. And I think that's the most important thing, is buying into each other and understanding each other. And I think we've got a little bit of that already, and I think we showed out there in abundance today. So it's about keep learning off each other, keep learning, and then taking it game by game.
I'm trying to work out whether that's a veiled criticism of the previous regime, whether or not it's tactical, or was it just the players feeling liberated? What did you think, Crook?
Well, they were excellent, Nottingham Forest, albeit against a really poor Fenerbahce side. You know, with the wage bill that they've got over in Istanbul, they would be demanding a lot more from their players. But I'm going to be a bit brutal here, actually. And I'm going to suggest that the Nottingham Forest players have been mugging off their supporters with their recent performances. You know, because where was that energy and that willingness to run for the cause in the last few games of the Sean Dyche era? Clearly, they didn't like his training methods. We've heard stories coming out that, you know, maybe they were doing too much running for their liking in training. They didn't necessarily agree with his tactics. And obviously, they were relaying that information to Evangelos Marinakis. But again, like I said about the Palace players, you're playing for yourself, first and foremost, for personal pride. You're playing for the badge. You're playing with the supporters who turn up week in, week out and pay the money. That performance was night and day to what they've been doing in the Premier League. Amari Hutchinson, who's had a really poor season after a club record move last summer, he looked like a well-beater in Istanbul last night. Where's that type of performance been in the Premier League? So if I was a Forest fan, I'd be delighted with what they saw, but I'd also be really disappointed with the lack of effort in recent Premier League games.
So, Gabby, this is a Fenerbahce team that are unbeaten in the Turkish league this season. Can you explain why the players would go from being disappointing and lacking a cutting edge and energy to playing in such a manner? Is it just tactical liberation, or is there something deeper here at play?
I think it's a different manager, isn't it? You know, new manager bounce, of course. Everyone wants to get the starting spot under the manager. Let's not forget how poor Fenerbahce were last night. They were poor against Villa recently as well, when Aston Villa played them there. And I thought all across the pitch, Sangare was top. I thought Nico Williams, every player was very good last night for Nottingham Forest. But I agree, Crookie, to a certain degree, Sam. Are these players a bunch of jokers, really? I mean, the quality that they showed last night, the quality that they've got as a squad of players, Gibbs, White, Sangare, Anderson in that midfield, Eagle Jesus, 7 goals in the Europa League. And you're watching them in the Premier League and you're like, oh, the manager runs you too much, does he? Oh, you don't like the training sessions, do you? So you don't put in the performances. Like,
yeah, but they also did well when Sean Dyche just took over the club as well. I think they beat Porto in his first game in the competition.
Yes.
Actually, is there something to be said for the level of opposition that they're playing in the Europa League rather than in the Premier League, where everything's a lot harder?
They also won 3-0 at Liverpool early on in Sean Dyche's tenure. Do you know what? This has got hallmarks of Leicester City, in that once the players have decided they've had enough of the manager, they know they can get him out, because they know they've got the ear of Marinakis. I'm not sure that's the way to run a football club.
I'm with Crookie, though, Sam. Hutchinson looked like prime Arjen Robben last night. The way he was drifting past players, I was thinking to myself, hang on a second, what game am I watching here? You watch these players in the Premier League and they're struggling. Hudson-Odoi hasn't been at his best recently defensively. You know, they've not been strong. Last night, Murillo running out from defence, scoring a screamer. It was quite easy for them defensively last night. Where's that defensive responsibility in the Premier League games? Milenkovic not been at his best this season. So have they switched off from managers after 4 or 5 weeks of playing under them? Will they need another manager come 5 weeks' time as well?
Can you blame them, though, with all the chopping and changing that has gone on? It's been a season of absolute turmoil for them. If you think back to the end of last season, they're standing there watching their owner come striding onto the pitch towards the end of the campaign, a campaign which looked like being a Champions League qualification campaign. It ended up being a Conference League qualifying campaign. They only got bumped up to the Europa League because of an administrative error at Crystal Palace. And then after that, they changed the manager. Then they changed the manager again. And then they changed the manager again. You can understand that some of these players are probably sitting there thinking, we don't know whether we're coming or going here.
Yeah, but I think, as I say, it's a little bit more than that when you've got 4 or 5 senior players being summoned up to the owner's box after the 0-0 draw.
All the time at Forest,
yeah,
mate.
I know it does, but it's not the way that a football club should be run. It undermines the manager's authority. They're going to get away with it this year because I think Pereira will come in. He'll have that uplift that he did at Wolves. They'll win enough games to avoid relegation. Who knows? They might go deep into the Europa League, as they should do, because the Premier League is so strong, and it showed again last night the depth of the Premier League compared to other leagues around Europe. But if we get to the start of next season and Vitor Pereira is still in charge, what are the odds those players switch off again?
Well, he won't be, will he? If Marco Silva is available in the summer, they'll change it again, won't they?
Well, quite possibly. I mean, my favourite stat from last night, actually, was that in their history, only 4 men have ever taken charge of Nottingham Forest in a European game before this season. All 4 managers have taken charge of Forest in Europe this season, so they've doubled their tally in a single campaign. It's incredible.
I'm shocked as well, Sam, especially some of the English players. Surely they haven't switched off on the Sean Dyche. The Andersons, the Gibbs Whites, Hudson-Odois. I'll be really surprised and disappointed, McAtee, if those players
McAtee's been awful.
Haven't showed the respect to Sean Dyche, what this manager has done in his career. If he's come in and felt you're not fit enough, wanted to run you, he's not doing it to punish you. He just wants you to be fitter during games.
Yeah, but also the other thing is that it's been very difficult to sort of get everybody into the team because there are so many players in this squad. The whole problem that Nuno Espirito Santo had in the summer was the fact that the recruitment was overloaded with new players in areas that he didn't want them, and he didn't think they were good enough to do so. Goals have been a massive problem. They haven't been as big a problem in Europe because the defences aren't as good in Europe as they are in the Premier League. That's a massive issue for them. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on against Liverpool. And I made a note earlier on. I wonder whether or not this is really concerning for West Ham and Tottenham Hotspur, the fact that they look as if they might pick up under Vitor Pereira, because it actually might be a bad situation for Crystal Palace and for Brighton as well, because you've got teams at the bottom of the table that are starting to fight. West Ham has started to put points on the board. Tottenham are an unknown because they've just changed their manager. And you've got Vitor Pereira going in and making the perfect start at Nottingham Forest. If you are those other teams that are hovering around 31, 32 points, you might be starting to look in your rear-view mirror a little bit more often than you were.
Yeah, definitely. Because, as I say, I think there's enough quality in this Forest side to get the points they need to steer themselves away from trouble. Vitor Pereira is proven to be a manager who goes in and has that positive impact initially, and then it tends to unravel. If you look at the number of jobs he's had over the course of his career, he never stays anywhere for too long. But you're right, it is a concern for those teams competing with Forest. Just on the lack of goals in the Premier League. I mean, Igor Jesus has been brilliant in Europe, as you mentioned, but hasn't so far been able to translate that to the Premier League. Lorenzo Luca came on last night, looks a handful, but again, not been prolific over in Italy this season. So I think that could still be an issue, and it'll be interesting to see how they get on against Liverpool at the weekend.
He's taller than that bridge here in Mostar.
He's massive.
That fella.
He is huge.
He's absolutely massive. They call him Pizza Crouch.
Brilliant.
The Italian who's over 2 meters tall. Loads of text still coming in. Paul says, I don't really get players aren't playing for the manager nonsense. Shouldn't the players be playing for the club, for the badge? In Palace's case, even if Glasner is still there, wouldn't the players want to prove their worth for a new manager coming in? That's Paul in Wigan. Board didn't invest properly at the beginning of the season. Not enough players brought in who were Premier League ready. Small squad, then run out of legs. And bodies in December. They're over-inflated fees paid in January for players woefully out of form or favour. No replacement for the captain, the best centre-half in the league. Glasner saying that he's off and it's toxic, the cocktail that has been snowballing for Crystal Palace. That's Mark in Croydon. If you want to have your say on Forest, if you want to have your say on Palace, if you want to have your say on the North London derby, it's 03717 2233 44. You can text us 81089. You can get in touch via X, and of course you can do us a WhatsApp as well, 03717 2233 44. It's Sam Matterface, Gabby Agbonlahor, and the Saltmeister, and he's revved up, ready to talk about the North London derby next with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
The question from me to you, Simon, is how much can your image be diminished in 8 months? Now they're coming out, the woodwork. One source has told Telegraph Sport. Thomas Frank was constantly going on to the players about Arsenal, and they quickly get sick of it. Even before and after the game at the Emirates, he was telling them how good Arsenal were. The feeling among some was very much, just shut up about Arsenal. Elsewhere, reports suggest that after Spurs lost to Arsenal in November, Thomas Frank warned the squad about a drop in standards. The next day, multiple players turned up late to training, including the captain, Romero.
And what does that say about the professionalism of people? Are you trotting that out for whoever's trotting that out? Isn't pouring necessarily a bad light just on Thomas Frank. He's pouring a bad light on the people themselves. The players. I don't know whether Thomas Frank is so unaware, so obtuse in his thinking that he would spend his entire time consumed speaking about Arsenal as their biggest rival in terms of using Arsenal in the conversations. Is he that stupid? He doesn't strike me as that sort of stupid.
No.
Players that come out and say things or use agents or media hounds to say things to, I have no respect for. The fact
of a coffee at an Arsenal Cup, but I mean, that was a mistake.
Yeah, and that's why they're perhaps steering into that opportunity. Has he been diminished? Of course he's been diminished. Life is not linear. Success isn't always a straight line. You go up and down, and most people have lots of failures in their lives. It's like an iceberg. All the failures are beneath the surface, and you only see the successes, and you judge people by the successes. He will have to rebuild a little bit. Now what's being considered is he's not capable of managing a big club. He's clearly capable of managing clubs. People are now going to go after him and say, well, actually, he can't have been doing that well, because look what Keith Andrews has done. Keith Andrews had his team that ripped apart, all the best players sold.
Trip to Cheltenham, Alan Brazil style on talkSPORT.
Well, fancy joining talkSPORT at the famous Cheltenham Festival or the Gold Cup Day? We're giving away the ultimate hospitality experience for Friday, March 13th. You'll get the full VIP treatment, a 4-course lunch, a complimentary bar, celebrity tipsters and more. You'll be experiencing the race in the best way possible. And you'll get to meet some of us as well. Here's your chance to enter. All you have to do is text WIN to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or you can call 0343 418 7260. Lines close on the 27th of February, 2026 at 4 p.m. And that's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. It's a talkSPORT promotion. Full T's and C's are available at talksport.com. So for your chance to win, text WIN to 83338 right now. No, they could get the full Crook experience. That's basically what he calls Monday, by the way. Days like that. Let's talk about Arsenal. Arsenal have won 6 of their last 7 Premier League games against Spurs, including each of the last 4. They last won 5 league games in a row against them between January 1987 and January 1989. Gabby was 3 years of age, dancing around his kitchen in Birmingham to Bobby Brown's My Prerogative, or maybe Phil Collins' Two Hearts, I don't know. It was that long ago that Arsenal won 5 in a row. So how much will this result, do we think, be affected by what happens the night before when Manchester City take on Newcastle, Gabs?
I think it'll have a lot to do with it because the pressure's on then, isn't it? It really is squeaky bum time then for Arsenal. And also, if you're Spurs, you've got a new manager, you've had 12 days off. Some of the players maybe got a bit of nice sun. Arsenal have had a hard game against Wolves midweek where they've drawn. Do you say to Spurs, you haven't beaten Arsenal since May 2022? 5 of the last 6 games you've lost against Arsenal. Give your fans something to cheer. Sam, give your fans something that they can take a North London derby and you can contribute in stopping Arsenal winning the Premier League.
It's going to be a tough game for both these two teams, mainly because both have doubts over key personnel. Let's focus on Arsenal, first of all. Doubts over Trossard, who's got a persistent niggle and can't really get 100% fit. Odegaard, they're hopeful about that he's going to be available, and they might need his creativity. No Havertz, no Marino. Saka limped off against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Ben White came off against Wigan. I wonder whether there's a question here, Crook, about him using this incredibly deep squad that he's got to its full potential. Because last season and the season before, he was sort of criticised for not rotating in key matches. Has he sort of overused some members of that squad, and has that contributed to the injury level?
Well, the way that Trossard went down after being caught by Mosquera, I was a bit worried he might miss the rest of the season, let alone have a small niggle.
Incredible, wasn't it?
We digress. I still think there's a bit of an issue when it comes to Mikel Arteta and not trusting certain players, Eberechi Eze being the prime example of that. Obviously, a struggle to get into the team since he made the mistake that cost them against Aston Villa. I think Bukayo Saka doesn't look quite the same player this season he has in previous campaigns because I think he's been overutilised by Arteta. So I think it's a legitimate criticism. But more than that, they seem to be a team who've just forgotten how to kill games. You go 1-0 up away from home after 4 minutes against the worst team in the league. You have to go for the jugular there. They should have had that game won in the first half. They didn't, and slowly but surely they allowed Wolves to get back in it and obviously snatched a point at the end. The draw at Brentford, you can say on the face of it, well, that's a decent point. It's a tough place to go. They had 2 shots on target in that game. One of them was the goal. And if you're going to win the title, again, you've got to be going there and winning, as Manchester City did earlier in the season. 0-0 at Nottingham Forest when they struggled to create opportunities. 0-0 at home to a depleted Liverpool, when actually Liverpool were the better team on the night of the Emirates, losing to Manchester United. Now, as good as that was from a Michael Carrick perspective, again, if you want to be champions, you've got to be beating Manchester United.
Also, Sam Crookie, why did they buy Christian Norgard as a mascot?
One.
Because 4 Premier League appearances this season, 32 minutes in total. Zubimendi, second highest appearance maker in the Premier League for Arsenal. Give Norgard a chance. He's a top player. We saw what he'd done at Brentford. Captain, top midfielder, but he's not getting game time. So that's why I can't listen to the injuries and the overworked players when you've got players in your squad who aren't getting game time.
Yeah, obviously he's played really well, Zubimendi, and you want to keep him in the team. And there have been some tight games in which he's been the difference. If you look at the goal that he scored against Sunderland, it was absolute corker, and it opened the floodgates. He scored 2 goals against Nottingham Forest earlier in the season, which were the difference in that match as well. Norgard isn't really going to give you that, but I get your point. There's just not enough rotation. Ben White has been available for a lot of the season. Jurrien Timber plays almost every single game. And you looked at his performance on Wednesday night and you saw signs of fatigue. But Crook's right about the creativity, isn't he, Gabby? How do you unlock some of these talents? You think what they've got now, they've got Jesus. Okay, Havertz is injured. They've got Gyökeres. They've got Trossard. They've got Martinelli. They've got Saka. They've got Odegaard. They've got Eze. They've got Madueke. why is it, with all of those resources available to be deployed, they're still not scoring goals for fun against some of the teams that they should be breaking down and putting away?
They should be doing a lot better. I mean, Havertz getting injured wasn't ideal. Marino as well. They played their best football this season with Marino as a striker. But I look at Madueke's performance was poor against Wolves. Didn't have any joy. Was lucky to stay on as long as he did. Saka.
Is that because he's played sort of 8 great games in a row? He started 8 games in a row with no rest now.
It could be, but maybe just played against the left back who got the better of him. Simple as that. 1v1, you couldn't get past him. But then I look at, everyone says service is what strikers rely on. I play as a centre forward. Sometimes make your own bloody goal. Gyökeres, 8 goals this season in the Premier League, 2 penalties. 3 against Leeds, 1 against Burnley, 1 against Forest, 1 against Everton, 2 against Sunderland. Also, he's had 0 shots on target in 60% of his Premier League games. Make your own goal. He looked happy to be taken off against Wolves.
Does it come to the crunch where Arsenal almost have to do what Manchester United did with Rasmus Højlund and decide, actually, Gyökeres is not good enough, to be a top-level Premier League striker? Are they going to have to, at some point, cash in and move on?
But sometimes make your own goal.
Yeah, but you can't do that in the middle of the season, right?
No.
Sam, top strikers make their own goals. You look back at Van Persie, Drogba, these sort of strikers. Ball comes into you, hold the player off, little touch, bang. Gyökeres, he looks laboured up front. Yes, he holds the ball up now and then and brings players into play. That's not enough for an Arsenal striker.
Oh, it's not enough in terms of goals, and he doesn't look like he can get away from a central defender, and that's a real problem, isn't it? You need to have that speed, and for all the goals that he scored in Portugal in the Championship, as we mentioned earlier on with some of the other strikers that are thriving in the European competitions for Nottingham Forest, the fact is that Premier League defences are amongst the best in the world, and you've got to have that little bit extra, that stardust, to be able to get beyond them. What did you make of the Wolves social media team taking to TikTok to poke fun at Arsenal for their time-wasting antics on Wednesday? It's something, actually, that Mikel Arteta has been irked about before. I remember him wiring into Newcastle United not so long ago for doing the same thing. And his players appeared to be doing that on Wednesday night, and the Wolves social media certainly picked up on it, Crook.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I was involved with Wolves, I'd look at the league table and maybe think, we're not going to do this from a position of strength.
Just a bit.
But I did think it was a bit embarrassing. I mentioned it to you on the All Access podcast yesterday. Declan Rice taking 55 seconds to take a corner against the team bottom in the table. I've already alluded to Trossard going down like he'd been shot to try and A, get his opponent sent off, and B, to try and waste time. And there's the problem. They shouldn't have been in a position where they're 2-1 up and holding on and having to waste time. They should have put the game to bed. So I did think it was embarrassing for champions-elect.
Lads, I had a bet on before the game. Arsenal 5, Wolves 0.
Yeah.
That was my bet.
They struggled to beat Wolves twice now, not once but twice.
I was just confident of the quality Arsenal have got. Go and make a statement. When the first goal went in, I'm like, yeah, my bet's safe here. And then they just slow it down at the back. And like you said, time wasting. And then Gabriel Jesus after the game, who definitely can't fight his way out of a paper bag, started to want to be aggressive. Where was you whilst you was on the pitch?
I hate that.
Done nothing.
I hate that. Do it on the pitch. That's one of my bugbears.
It does sound like Gabby's been taking betting tips off of Alex Crook, who appears to have been... listen, I'm not there today, Gabby. You're supposed to be keeping him in check. He appears to be using AI again for his statistics. We've had loads of text messages coming in suggesting that his Forest manager stat, which was his favourite stat from his commentary last night, was absolutely wrong. Good morning, Alex, Gabby and Rylan. Gyökeres is a dud. Arsenal will win on Sunday simply because on Wednesday we were terrible and they have a point to prove. Great show, lads. Al, the Arsenal fan. Okay, Crook, we're giving you a couple of minutes now to correct yourself. Are you ready to tell us what the real statistic was? Have you actually got the real statistic or did you just make it up?
They've had 3 managers in Europe this season, not 4. I thought Nuno had taken charge of the first game.
A mistake, mate.
But on the subject of wrong information,
No, hold on. Just don't deflect. Just
I'm going to deflect. I'm going to deflect because this running order, we know the referee takes his time over it. I've got a list of Arsenal's last 7 results in front of me. 2-2 draw away from home at Brentford.
Oh, that's how they're running order.
1-1.
I think it was 1-1, wasn't it, ref?
Yes.
It was 1-1.
Listen,
It was a draw.
Everybody makes mistakes, don't they?
Oh, what's going on here?
Everybody makes mistakes.
You're like these players nowadays. Throw managers under the bus. Everyone's throwing each other under the bus, Sam.
Unbelievable. Can't believe it. He can't just own the fact that he made a massive mistake. Just take it on your chin. 03717223344. We're going to talk Arsenal in the next section of the programme. Igor Tudor walks into the door. His first job is to take charge of a North London derby. Is this the best possible game to tackle at this stage of his Tottenham career, or the worst? 03717223344.
John Terry took to his own Instagram account to respond today. Let's hear what JT had to say.
Guys, this is a debate that everyone's entitled to their opinion to. But, Pens, when you're on the radio and you're giving your opinion, you have to get the stats right. There's only one person that's got the most goals as a defender in Premier League history, and that's me. I also have the most clean sheets in Premier League history. And also, if you're comparing myself and Virgil, then I have more trophies than him as well. Also, you brought up a really good point. At the age of 34, 2014-15, I played every single minute of every game for Chelsea, winning the league in 2014-15 when Mourinho was our manager. So, guys, this is over to you. I love the debate. I love being amongst it. I'm really proud of what I've done in the Premier League, but this is clearly over to you guys to settle the debate. But I'm just happy to be in and amongst it.
I mean, if you saw that, you'd see that. I mean, he could reply to that from his lounge.
Yeah.
Decided to reply to that in his museum, and rightly so.
Right, of course, right.
The backdrop was fantastic. So we thought we'd settle this once and for all. We've picked 5 legendary centre-backs via a vote in the Drive Time group chat from earlier on. Well done, producer Joe, for doing this. They are John Terry, Virgil van Dijk, Rio Ferdinand, Emmanuel Vidic, and Vincent Kompany.
Who's your 5 that you voted for, or do you not want to say that?
I think it was probably them. Yeah, it must have been them, right? Because I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Sol Campbell, yep, Tony Adams, good centre half.
They're just above them.
Yep.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van Range. Commercial vehicles that go the distance for your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
A very good morning. It's 2 minutes past 11. Here with the sports headlines. I'm Amelia Beltrao. Once deemed the greatest manager in Palace's history, now faces sacked in the morning chants. Oliver Glasner managed to only get a draw against Green-Skeen in the first leg of their Conference League knockout playoff. The Eagles extend their poor recent run to just 1 win in 15. And talkSPORT's Alex Crook says Glasner's made a mess of this competition.
And they go away from home last night to a team that sound like a cocktail, let alone a football club, and they don't win. They were favourites going into the start of this competition. I think they're probably still the bookmakers' favourites. I don't think they're going to win it, and I think if they don't, it'll be on Oliver Glasner.
Elsewhere, we played with a real identity, so says Forest skipper Morgan Gibbs-White, as Vitor Pereira kicks off his reign with a win and a clean sheet in Europe. talkSPORT presenter and Forest fan Max Scott says they played with the reins off.
They played with freedom, and I think it shows that how maybe unhappy some of those players were under Sean Dyche. The fact that they went to Istanbul, to a team unbeaten domestically under Dominic Tedesco, and absolutely played them off the park.
Forest now prepared to host Liverpool in the Premier League on Sunday. Now, Martin O'Neill says there's no money to spend at Celtic, and that's why it's difficult to compete in Europe. The Hoops lost to Stuttgart at home, with fans chucking tennis balls onto the pitch in frustration at the club's board. But the boss is calling for patience.
In time, Celtic will be able to compete deep into European competitions. It's just that it's not there at this minute. That's fine.
And Rory McIlroy endured rain, wind and a 3-hour suspension of play to claim a share of the lead at the Genesis Invitational. He dropped just one shot in Los Angeles to join American Jacob Bridgman on the top of the leaderboard. There's more at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Andrew's arrest is shaping up to be the biggest crisis for the royals since Edward VIII quit the throne. And we hear from actor Patrick Dempsey following the passing of his Grey's Anatomy co-star Eric Dane, who's died at the age of 53. Emma's more at 1:30.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Rain or shine, our mobile tyre fitting service comes to you so you can stay on the sofa this winter. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
Dry but cloudy for many of us. Rain spreading from Northern Ireland and Western Scotland to all areas by early afternoon, but feeling milder.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's Sam Matterface in Bosnia, where Crystal Palace played out a disappointing draw with Zrinjski Mostar last night. Back in the studio in London, Gabby Agbonlahor and the Saltmeister Alex Crook. Looking forward to hearing their views on the North London derby this week. We've talked a lot about Arsenal in that last section of the programme. Let's talk about the Tottenham Hotspur. It's the first Spurs home fixture, I think, in some time without the possibility of sort of a toxicity that has been following them around a little bit. They've changed the manager, which is what the fans wanted. I was at their last home game against Newcastle United, and it just felt like the players were completely on the floor, just didn't have the answers, didn't look interested or committed to the manager's plan. How will it be different under Igor Tudor, and has he had enough time to work with his players, Crook?
I'm intrigued by this appointment because obviously one of the main factors is he's proven in the past that he can come into a team in a difficult situation, give them an uplift, put wins on the board, which obviously Spurs need to steer themselves away from relegation danger. But as Southampton found with Ivan Juric last season, who had a similar profile, there's a big difference between doing that in European leagues and coming into the Premier League and doing it. I do think you're right. I think the atmosphere around the stadium will be a lot more positive on Sunday than it has been previously. I think the change of manager, the fact it's not Thomas Frank anymore as much as anything, makes this a more difficult fixture for Arsenal. But what happens if they go behind early? What happens if they lose this game? That lightning rod effect that the Spurs hierarchy are obviously hoping for suddenly evaporates quite quickly.
Yeah, it's slightly different in terms of the profile of the manager. I mean, you keep comparing Juric to Tudor, but Juric basically only managed teams in Italy, Genoa and Hellas Verona down the bottom of the table. Igor Tudor has managed Marseille, Lazio and Juventus. So it is a slightly different
How many of those were in relegation trouble when he took over? Because that's where Spurs are.
Yeah, but what he did do in all of three of those situations was make an immediate impact. He's sort of known as a bit of a firefighter, which is exactly what Spurs need.
You're probably going to see the Forest effect, Gabs, because again, we know the Tottenham players weren't playing for Thomas Frank. So you are going to get an improved performance just because Thomas Frank isn't there anymore.
I think Spurs get a draw. I really do. And if you're the Spurs players, I know you're not going to look at Wolves and where they are in the league, but look at that performance. A bit of fight. You know, the Wolves centre-half Mascara, some of the tackles he was putting in a Martinelli, showing a bit of fight. Strikers, running Gabriel ragged and Saliba, making it difficult for them. If you're Spurs, you'll play the three at the back. Maybe it's Dragerson, Van der Ven and Gray as your three centre-halves because of injuries and suspensions. But put a fight in. Yeah. Make it a horrible derby, Sam. You know, derbies don't have to always be who plays the best football wins. I played in loads where most of the time the midfielders are hooking it on. Everyone's scared to get the ball down and play. Make it a difficult game, make it ugly, and show a bit of fight for your fan base.
Well, certainly he'll give them a bit of fight. I mean, he was sacked, wasn't he, for raging against the performances of the Marseille players and saying that the squad wasn't good enough and the quality wasn't available to him when he was the boss there 10 years ago. He's reigniting his relationship with Randall Kolo Muani, a player who played well for him previously. And he needs everybody on side. I'm not entirely sure that everybody was on side with Thomas Frank in that dressing room. It's something that we highlighted back in the autumn, shortly after the first few weeks of the season, and there was a little dip in results. Obviously, this appointment goes one way or the other. It's a massive gamble, isn't it? It either gets them away from the relegation zone and they don't have to worry about that issue, or they completely implode because the manager is trying to do something he's never done before, which is work in the Premier League and play front-footed football, which Tottenham Hotspur did do last season, but not to a great effect. And they end up getting relegated, in which case it'll be an absolute disaster for them, won't it?
Yeah, and actually one of the low points of the Thomas Frank tenure was the reverse meeting at Arsenal when Spurs didn't turn up. Basically, they were far too passive.
It was awful.
I would expect to see a lot more fight in this game. We've been talking about strikers. Obviously, Gabs is not a fully played up member of the Victor Gyökeres fan club. I think at the other end of the pitch, in Dominic Solanke, Spurs have a willing runner who I think can cause problems at this Arsenal defence. And actually, his recent goal scoring record is very good.
I think as well, West Ham beat Bournemouth for me. That'll put it down to 2 points between West Ham
Bournemouth
and Spurs.
in good form. I don't think that's a tap-in.
I know, not a tap-in, but I'd expect the way West Ham are playing to beat Bournemouth. It's a cup final for West Ham. They've got to win that game. Then you say it's 2 points if Spurs do lose. Then you're like, okay, this has gone from we've got a chance of going down. It's a crisis at Spurs. And like I said earlier, show some fight. There's no reason why you can't go and beat Arsenal. Look at what Brentford did to them, got a draw. Wolves did to them, got a draw. Manchester United beat them at the Emirates. Why not?
Well, historically, they don't beat Arsenal, do they? That's one of the big issues. You know, you looked at that performance that they put in earlier in the season. Crook and I were there. It was insipid. They have to put more have to put more fight into the team. Yeah, okay. Yes, they scored a hat trick, but like, not being rude, they hardly had a shot on goal. The only shot that they had on goal was from the halfway line, and it was a fluke that it went in. It was a nothing performance, and they've lost to Newcastle at home recently. The home record is really poor. They've got 3 massive fixtures coming up. Arsenal on Sunday, which we'll be at. Fulham away the following Sunday. And then they've got Crystal Palace at home, and I'm doing that match. And that could be a pivotal match for them, especially seeing as the next 2 games after that are away at Anfield and then Nottingham Forest at home. You know, if he makes an immediate impact, things could look pretty good by the time we get to that fixture. But if he doesn't, they could look pretty stark as well, Crook.
It's a difficult set of fixtures to come into, and I think that's why this game is so important, and that's why Tottenham have to seize on a little bit of the anxiety that clearly is surrounding Arsenal at this moment in time. They've got to get in their faces, they've got to get the crowd engaged, whereas they haven't been under Thomas Frank. Again, like I said about Forest, you do look at this Tottenham team, and I know they've not shown it over the course of the season. I do think they've got too much quality to go down. There are match winners in this Spurs team, and it's interesting that Xavi Simons passed up the opportunity to go on holiday. Like a lot of his teammates, he wanted to stay and put in extra hours on the training pitch. And actually, towards the end of Thomas Frank's reign, he was just starting to show the qualities that he has. So I think he could be a big player between now and
I think all the teams...
Where do you stand on that, Gabby? People going on holiday at this stage of the season when they're fighting for relegation. Is that the right thing to do? Is that the right look to give to the fans?
Listen, I think when you've got 12 days before a game, going away for 3 days and obviously not drinking, but going away and getting some sun and getting some rest, I've got no problem with that at all. And I think that's what the Spurs players would have been doing. Different for Chelsea, who have been away, haven't they? A few of the players went to Dubai and maybe went to nightclubs, maybe different for the Chelsea players. But I just look at all the teams, Sam, down the bottom. Every game, you have to try and win now. There's not like picking games where, that's where you get the 3 points. And it starts on Sunday for Spurs against Arsenal. Haven't beaten them since 2022 in the league, Arsenal. That's a a local derby, having beaten them in 4 years. Like, that's unacceptable. You're fighting for your life now to stay in the Premier League. Show that on the pitch.
Do you know what's
but my question is to you is that you're asking not only for the players to fight on the pitch, but you want a different atmosphere inside the stadium because you're not happy about what's happened over the course of the last 6 or 7 weeks. We've seen Spurs players under Thomas Frank fighting with the supporters, or at least exchanging views with the supporters, trying to make out that there's some sort of, siege mentality amongst the group because they don't feel as if they've been treated with the respect. But then you're turning around to those same supporters and saying, come and watch us, come and cheer us on. We're going on holiday for 5 days, first of all, before we get going with the new manager. Is that the right look? Seriously?
But Sam, if they've been given time off, then why not? Go and clear your mind, a few days in the sun and come back.
Well, ask
These
Xavi
players
Simons
aren't at the
why not.
Carnival. Like,
Xavi Simons says, why not? He says, actually, do you know what? I'm going to go in and dig in and show everybody that I want to make a contribution to this team. Isn't that the attitude that the Spurs players, supporters want to see?
With my players hat on, listen, when you've got 12 days before a game and you've been given a chance to take a break, go abroad somewhere and get a bit of sun on your skin, no problem with me. I haven't got a problem with that. If the players were caught partying on a yacht, I get it. They haven't been. But
I'm
also,
not suggesting it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm asking what will the supporters be thinking?
I think they'll judge them on their performance.
I was going to say it depends what happens on the pitch, doesn't it? If they come back from 5 days holiday and produce a stinker, they're going to say it was the wrong thing to do. If they come back from 5 days away looking refreshed and get a positive result, they'll say it was a masterstroke.
Maybe the Spurs fans should look at West Ham and what their fans are doing. They've been through it this season. They've got problems with the ownership. But the West Ham atmosphere now at home has been tremendous in recent weeks, especially against Manchester United. Unlucky to not get the win. When you've got the fans on your side at home, it makes a big difference. Yeah. Arsenal will hate the fact that Spurs fans are cheering their team on and making it an atmosphere. That's what would be my advice to Spurs fans. Forget what's happened this season and get behind your team.
I think they will. I think they will because Thomas Frank is no longer in the dugout. I think the atmosphere will be.
Well, as we said, we didn't think it would be toxic like it has been over the last recent
doesn't
weeks.
like players going on holiday. Okay,
that's not true. But I just wonder whether or not they should have taken a leaf out of Arsenal's book from a couple of years ago when they all went to Dubai on a training camp and they mixed that sort of relaxation and decompression with everybody being together and trying to unify the group. Wouldn't it have been the perfect time to meet the new manager? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe all this was planned well before. I know you two love a holiday, don't they? You two love a holiday.
I can't remember the last time I had a holiday. Says the guy sunning himself in Bosnia.
Exactly.
Make the bed, by the way. It's a scruffy look behind you.
Sunning himself in Bosnia. It's only about -3. I'll get out there and get a tan in just a moment. Thank you very much. We'll continue to build up to the North London derby. I've got no problem with players going on holiday. I just wonder whether or not it should have been so public, especially at this time with Tottenham in the position that they are. 03717223344. We're going to talk Manchester City against Newcastle as well between now and when we go at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Lots to get through between now and then. It's a huge weekend in the Premier League at the top and the bottom of the table. And the best place to be, it's got to be talkSPORT. This is Sam Matterface, Gabby Agbonlahor and the Saltmeister, Alex Crook. We're here right the way through till 1 o'clock with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's Real Deal at selcobw.com.
This season we've got the squad, but I'm not quite sure the quality of the front line is up to it. I don't rate Gyökeres. He's come in supposedly as the goal scorer we were hoping that we needed to get us over the line. He's not been that person. We signed Eze, who actually was on the verge of going to Tottenham. And with all due respect to Eze, he's talented, but he's more of a Tottenham player because he's an in-and-out player. He doesn't do it week in, week out. He's a streak-type player. He's not an Arsenal player. Madueke, he's a good understudy maybe for Saka, but he's not a first-teamer. He's great with all the tricks, but his final ball is not good enough. So I think that the problem is our front line. Is something not quite right with the front line insofar as we're not effective enough. We haven't got that killer instinct to go out and smash teams. Last night, you're 2-0 up, go out and smash them, put them to rest, and we haven't done that.
Well,
you cannot let Leeds...
Keith, I know you know your stuff. Who's your top goal scorer this season?
Good question, actually. I believe... I think it probably is Gyökeres, I think.
Gyökeres.
But that's
and he's coming in for it this morning.
Sorry?
He's coming in for it this morning.
Look, we got him thinking... We've got a striker there who's got something like 98 goals in 100 appearances in Portugal.
It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Gabby Agbonlahor on a Friday. As always, thank you very much for joining us on talkSPORT. We love having your company and we love the interaction that you give us as well. Keep it coming, 03717 22 3344. It's nice to hear that you two are keeping the motivation up amongst our team, by the way. Didn't hear anyone went out and got the guys a coffee this morning. No one did that, no. But don't worry, Crook did buy the producer a can of Coke Zero for £1.15 and got a receipt for it as well.
Did you, Crookie?
I did not get it. No. To be fair,
poor team look dehydrated, Sam.
Mr. Mostar, Gabs did message you and ask if you were going to send some coffee money over, but we've not seen anything in the account.
Any chance, Sam?
Funny that. We were talking about atmosphere a little bit earlier on, and not in our studio, but at Tottenham Hotspur. And it's not great at Celtic right now. They've lost 4 of their last 6 home games in Europe, as many as they had in their previous 13 matches combined. Martin O'Neill celebrated his 1,000th game last night, but it wasn't the 1,000th game he had envisaged. The game was held up after Celtic fans threw balls onto the field in protest against the board, which left Martin O'Neill fuming.
Anybody who thinks that's a good idea needs their heads examining. Really, got to say it. Really is. You can imagine what I've been a manager here at this football club when teams like Juventus were scared stiff coming. Scared stiff. There was a cause that embraced players, managers, and crowd and everything, the whole thing. And that there is. Can you imagine being a Stuttgart player now, thinking coming on, you're on 5 or 6 minutes, you're worried about the crowd. The atmosphere to begin with was fantastic, really, and then suddenly that happens. One, it disrupts the game for a start, obviously, and secondly, if I'm a Stuttgart player, I'm thinking, don't feel too bad here. Don't feel too bad, instead of being intimidated by the situation and things like this here. It's not. And, that helps no one.
Realistically, it was never going to be an easy game against Stuttgart, who are a decent team in the Bundesliga. There was a rousing rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone, big atmosphere generated before kickoff, but within minutes of the game kicking off, the Celtic fans halted it by throwing balls onto the pitch. Gabby, have you ever been involved in a game that has been stopped because of protests, whether it be home or away, and what impact does it have on the players when you have those delays?
I haven't, but if I'm thinking from a player's point of view, the Celtic players probably frustrated. You know, you get yourself up for a big European game, and then you have to deal with that protest. Like, who is it helping? I get why they're doing it. You know, the problems with the board, but it does take a lot for Martin O'Neill to get that frustrated. I know him very well, and he was very angry after the game, and it doesn't help. Like he says, teams have come to Celtic in the past and been quite nervous, and it's a tough atmosphere and it's a hard place to go and play. Stuttgart last night, it was a bit of a training game for them, wasn't it, at times?
Yeah. Well, this is a problem for the Celtic board, isn't it? The fact is that we've said this a couple of times on this programme, Crook, is that they only spend money when they know they're in the Champions League. They always delay until really late to see whether or not they make it through that playoff. If they do that, they'll spend the money. If they don't, then they won't, because they know that they can only compete if they add extra players, and they believe that they can get through a season without spending if they're not in the Champions League. Well, the fact is that this season they may come a cropper as a result of not doing that. And this is a club with money in the bank. Now, Martin O'Neill reassured everybody that they will spend and they will rebuild this squad and that they will be competitive in the future. But the fans don't look that convinced.
No, and actually it's sad to see Celtic and Rangers, you know, how badly they're performing in Europe. Obviously, Rangers didn't get out of the league phase, and Celtic, well, they're out effectively, aren't they? They're not going to turn that around in Stuttgart. And when you look at the recent European history of the two clubs, Rangers in particular getting to the final, I think it shows you just how much those two old firm giants have fallen and how far behind the rest of Europe Scottish football is. And I think you need a strong Rangers and you need a strong Celtic.
And you blame Celtic, though, Celtic fans, Sam. I mean, last season, the players that they had, and obviously they lost, but getting to the playoffs and big game and the atmosphere when they actually reach the playoffs, the top 24, that's what they want every year. And then to not invest, don't get me wrong, the team they had available should have qualified for the Champions League, the players' fault, but to not replace these players and invest, Celtic fans are thinking, you know what, we could win the league this season, that's not enough. We want to be in the Champions League and we want to be fighting to get into that top 24 and into the playoffs again, because I've been to Celtic Park a couple of years ago, the atmosphere in that stadium is electric when they're on side.
I think you're totally right. I think this is the biggest issue that I think that Celtic face. The fact is there needs to be a change of mindset here. Yes. They need to be investing properly for the future rather than waiting every year to decide whether or not they're going to put their money where their mouth is to see if they get into the Champions League. It's been going on for too long. Now, listen, when they automatically qualified for the Champions League, they were better prepared and things were done in a different manner. But because the Scottish coefficient has dropped down the rankings, they don't get an automatic place in the Champions League at the moment. So they have to go through a playoff. And that does hamper them. And I wonder whether or not that sort of atmosphere, the toxicity, sort of infected their view last night when they were reacting to Kasper Schmeichel, who didn't have a great night. He had a bit of a night to forget last night. He was at fault for the first goal. He was definitely at fault for the third goal as well. But is it ever really right to turn on one of your own? Does that help your players?
I don't think it does. I think Kasper Schmeichel been a fantastic keeper in his career, especially for Celtic. And sometimes, Sam, it happens, doesn't it? Fans are frustrated at other things. You know, throughout that game, they've got the board on their mind and the protest. Yeah. And they're taking it out on Schmeichel, who doesn't deserve that. And I think Martin O'Neill backed his goalkeeper. He's been fantastic for the club. Is he in his best form? No, he's not. Is there a replacement that's good enough to take Schmeichel's place? Probably not. But maybe in the summer, Celtic do look at a younger and better keeper, because some of the saves recently that he's been making have not been good enough. Doesn't look like he can get down to shots. Don't know if that's his age or confidence, but he's definitely not performing as a top goalkeeper.
Do you ever remember getting, being? I mean, it definitely didn't happen to you, but did you ever get embarrassed by your teammates being booed for making a mistake?
Oh, I've been jeered at times.
Have you?
Yeah, Villa Park, 100%. Yeah, it's like I remember during Martin O'Neill, my best time at the club, and I was going through a spell of not scoring, and sometimes players are getting subbed, and Villa fans were jeering that I should have been the one to be subbed. And when I finally was, it was sarcastic cheers and stuff. So it does happen.
How did that make you feel?
Make you feel low, because you look at yourself and say, well, during the good times when I'm scoring, it's all good. But when a player's going through a dark spell and they're not performing, when you as a fan are still giving them confidence, then that you feel that as a player. So I'm sure Kasper Schmeichel at the moment will be very disappointed. And now you see it, don't you, Sam? He would have heard it last night, but he's going to see it all over social media as well, the players in these sort of times. So I think Celtic fans should give him a little break.
Yeah, it's not the first time, though, that he's made an error. A string of perceived errors have sort of haunted him this season. Joe Hugel's looping header for Kilmarnock last weekend was another example of that. And if you go back to the Bologna game last month and Jonathan Rowe's effort, I don't think he covered himself in glory. But sometimes you go through those spells as players and you need to come through it. Maybe he will. This is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Gabby Agbonlahor. If you want to react, you can do 03717223344. And if you've got your smartphone out and you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, on your connected TV now, and you want to download the latest episode of How to Win a World Cup, grab your smartphone right now and scan the QR code, which is in the top left of the screen right here. Look, there it is, right there. If you want to get it downloaded to your smartphone, you can do it via the Spotify or the talkSPORT app as well. So that's How to Win a World Cup. Emmanuel Petit is on that. Henry Winter is on the latest edition as well, all with Matt, who presents what is a very funny and informative podcast. This is talkSPORT with Sam Matterface, the Gabster, and Alex Crook. We're here till 1 o'clock this afternoon.
I don't enjoy all what goes on. Of course I don't. Who does? I don't want to see none of that. I don't like all the ranting and raving. John's obviously got a problem, him and Carl Frock, I don't know, with the two of them, and it is what it is. But it's nothing to do with me. And I've got to be honest, I have no regard for it. It's irrelevant to me. All I care about is what Tyson's doing and the fight. The rest of it's a sideshow.
You say that, Frank, but you are the promoter.
I'm not the promoter.
You're Tyson's promoter.
I'm Tyson's promoter, but I'm not the promoter of the event. It's a ring event. It's on, I have an exclusive contract with DAZN. This fight's on, as you well know, it's on Netflix.
But if you're uncomfortable with it, Frank, might you not have a word with Tyson?
I don't understand. Sorry, but I'm not responsible for what people do or in their family members are in or are with them or whether that's down to them. It's nothing that I'm not responsible, nor would I take the responsibility for that. It's no different if one of your relations starts ranting and raving and screaming and shouting. It's not down to you.
If it were an event that you were a promoter of note on, say, for example, you make the fight between the winner of Dubois versus Wardley, and you see this sort of behaviour exhibiting itself, would you put a stop to it? Would you suggest that you'd exclude John from press conferences if he can't conduct himself in an appropriate fashion?
I'm quite sure.
A win and a clean sheet in Europe while being unfazed by a hostile reception in Istanbul is an impressive start to the Vitor Pereira regime at Nottingham Forest. They beat Fenerbahce to put them on the verge of sealing the last 16, but it's a quick turnaround before their next test against Liverpool. Meanwhile, Martin O'Neill has slammed Celtic fan protests, which halted their Europa League loss to Stuttgart. Protesters threw tennis balls onto the pitch inside the opening seconds to highlight their frustration with the club's board.
Anybody who thinks that's a good idea needs their heads examining. One, it disrupts the game for a start, obviously. And secondly, if I'm a Stuttgart player, I'm thinking, well, don't feel too bad here. Don't feel too bad instead of being intimidated by the situation.
That match marked O'Neill's 1,000th game as a manager. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace fans taunted Oliver Glasner with sacked in the morning chants after a drab draw with Zrinski in the Conference League. Their slump worsened to 1 win in 15. It's the Steel City derby on Sunday as United host Wednesday. Even a win might not be enough to keep the Owls out of relegation, and Steve Bracknell knows it's going to be tough.
This could be our darkest hour. And one day, when this club recovers, we'll remember that day.
Yeah.
We'll remember that day. And we'll look back on it and go, yeah, I were there.
And in Italy, Great Britain are guaranteed at least silver in the men's curling. They beat Switzerland and will now face Canada in the final.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Gabby Agbonlahor. Time now to catch up with the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+. Gambleaware.org.
Right, okay, let's speak to Matt Gibson from BetMGM to look at today's top events and discuss the latest odds. We're delighted to have you. Matt, what have you done with Dan Towles? He wasn't at the Premier League darts last night, getting a little bit worse for wear, was he?
I think he is. I think he's attempting to play some hungover golf today, but he was. I think he was there to watch Johnny Clayton win at 18-1. So a real turn up for the Bucks, and yeah, as I'm sure you'll know, he's probably gone a bit over the top with the refreshments as he's got form to do.
I hope he's going to look after us nicely when we come to Brighton and Manchester and the final.
If you don't get thrown out again.
Milk.
What's that, Sam? Thrown out where?
Crook will tell you. It was a long time ago, that though. It was a long time ago. I've been on my best behaviour for a very long time. It was like me back in the day, but I'm a changed citizen now. A big week at the top of the Premier League table, isn't it? And Arsenal going to Tottenham obviously is going to draw everyone's eyes. But Manchester City play Newcastle live on talkSPORT before that, Matt.
Yeah, a couple of big games at the top, Sam. As you rightly say, Man City were probably the winners on Wednesday evening, weren't they? And they had the feet up, watching Arsenal blow a 2-goal lead and knowing that, all right, Newcastle were pretty good on their travels, but a 6-hour awkward flight back to Newcastle and another game in the players' legs, it probably does Man City a load of good. They are 12-25. To go in to win the game at the Etihad with good reason as well. They're pretty good there against Newcastle, and obviously they had the two-legged affair in the cup, which they easily dispatched them. And then Spurs Arsenal, lads, the North London derby. Really don't know what to make of it. 10 days ago, Arsenal looked pretty bulletproof, but that's a long time in football. A couple of draws later, they've drifted a little bit for the title. Spurs new manager bounds, outsiders at 5-1. You having that? Which way do you see these two games going, lads?
Oh, well, Gabby can give you his assessment because I know he's been delving into the statistics quite a lot, and he's a little bit annoyed that Tottenham haven't won a derby match against Arsenal for a long time, aren't you, Gabs?
Just because I played in so many local derbies, I understand them. Like, I mean, you despise the opposition. The fans despise each other. Like, show a bit of fight. The last time they won was May 2022. Spurs. I think Kane got 2 and Son scored. That's not good enough. And when you're fighting for your life now, especially at the bottom of the table, because I think West Ham have got a chance of winning. Nottingham Forest have got a chance of getting something against Liverpool. Show your fans a bit of fight. New manager, 12 days in between games. I think Spurs get something out of this. I'm going to go for 1-1 draw for me.
He's only the second manager ever to take charge of a North London derby as his first game for Tottenham Hotspur. The other one was Glenn Hoddle back in 2001. He was an FA Cup semi-final at Old Trafford, and they lost that match. So the omens aren't particularly good.
He's won. Igor Tudor has won his first match in charge of his last 5 spells at his club, though. So maybe, I don't know where, I don't particularly know much about the bloke, but I don't know where they've been. But his first games normally start pretty well. I know Spurs have been a bit out of form, Sam, but I think 5-1's a massive price. And I think Gabby tipping up the draw, Arsenal 2 draws in a row, I think Gabby tipping up the draw at 3-1 is maybe a savvy bet.
Yeah, Crook would have a bit of that 5-1, wouldn't you, Crook?
I fancy the draw as well. And I think Dominic Solanke could have a big part to play in this game as he did against Manchester City.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely wouldn't warn you off the draw at all. If you're looking to sort of double that up, I know we all kind of fancy Spurs to get something here. The Spurs and City double, I do think City will be too strong for the Geordies at home. Spurs and City doubles around about 8, so maybe a little bit of sport for the weekend on that one.
I'm not sure we all think that. I think that Arsenal will win the game on the weekend, to be honest with you. I think they'll come roaring back after the midweek disappointment they usually do. And it's just been that kind of season where Arsenal have got a little bit fortunate. I just wonder whether or not Saturday night's game is a foregone conclusion as well. Right, each week we're placing a prediction on some of the upcoming games on Golden Goals. If we correctly guess the exact scoreline, at BetMGM will donate £500 to our chosen charity, Prostate Cancer UK. I don't think we should do it at FA Cup weekends because it's too difficult. I got an absolute stinker of a prediction last weekend. I missed by about 150 goals. Although Crook keeps telling me he hit the post again.
Yeah, I got the draw. I did get the draw, just didn't get the score right.
I think he's taken this very, very personally that he's 0-29 from his.
I've noticed this. But
it's weighing heavy on him, I think.
Yeah, jokes aside, I've noticed him this morning. He's not been himself. Is it playing on your mind, Alex?
I've got a cold this morning.
It's because he went out with Scott Minto earlier in the week. That's the problem. Yeah, he's been in bed with man flu as well, apparently.
Has he? He's giving it to me then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's always somebody else's fault. Yeah. Right, what are we doing for Golden Goals this week then? We're going to try and raise some money for life-saving bowel cancer research.
Yeah, we had one lucky customer last week. He was 5 out of 6 correct scores, and the Newcastle game let another customer down again for the 250 grand jackpot. However, 5 out of 6 does get you £5 so not a bad consolidation prize. Sam, we're going to give you, I think it's probably one of the games of the weekend, really. West Ham, Bournemouth. What do you think?
Gab says this is a tap-in for West Ham, doesn't he?
Do you, Gabs?
No, I don't think it's a tap-in, but I think West Ham will find a way. It's a cup final for West Ham.
Yeah, well, they've only won 10 points from their last 5 Premier League games, despite the fact they have definitely picked up form. 10 points from 5 Premier League games. Yeah, okay. So I don't think they'll win the game. I think they'll draw the game. Bournemouth are in decent enough form. I just wonder whether or not that this will end up being a sort of swashbuckling event. They're unbeaten in their last 9 Premier League meetings with Bournemouth since a defeat in January 2019. I'm going 2-2 West Ham, Bournemouth. I think it'd be quite an entertaining match.
Sam, I love how you show your workings, mate. The last 5 games between these two sides have been the draw. So you've obviously done your homework. 2-2 is around about 17-2. Like I say, I don't think a draw is a bad shout here at all. Whether there's 4 goals or not sure on that. But I certainly won't warn you off the draw. Crookie, I'm going to ask you to be a bit gentle with me here. Villa, Leeds for yourself, mate.
I think this is a tough one. Obviously, Villa usually strong at home, but they have slipped a little bit in recent weeks. Leeds, difficult team to beat. I am going to go a home win. I'm going to go Villa 2, Leeds 1, but it wouldn't surprise me if Leeds did get a point.
Well, thanks for only making us lose by the odd goal there, mate. I think it was the same score at Ellen Road. Morgan Rogers at the double. I think Villa's form against us is pretty decent, and while we are fairly difficult to beat on the road, I don't think we've won too many games on the road this season, and you know, maybe the draw's not out of the question. I'd love to see us burgle a draw as we did at the Bridge, as we did at Anfield, but our trip to Birmingham last weekend wasn't over enamouring anyway. I watched that one from behind the sofa, so I do think Villa might be a shade too good for us, and 2-1 is 13-2, and then Gabby. Forest Liverpool, interesting one, isn't it? I don't know. I didn't watch the game last night. Obviously saw the result. Where you going with that one?
Forest were fantastic last night, all across the pitch. Defensively, midfield, Sangare, Gibbs, White, Anderson were fantastic. If they play like they did last night, I know it's obviously a better opposition, but I think Forest get something. I don't know whether to go with a 1-1 draw or a 2-2 draw, but my head's saying 1-1. New manager bounce. We've seen Liverpool drop points this season. A lot of draws, drop points at Fulham. Craven Cottage got a draw. And Nottingham Forest have only lost 1 of the last 5 games. So I sense a sticky draw for Liverpool.
Forest thumped them, didn't they, at Anfield earlier in the season? I think they beat them 3-0. And this exact fixture last year was a 1-1 draw at the City Ground. So again,
I didn't know that.
You didn't do your research?
No, I got told it 10 minutes ago.
1-1 draw, mate, is 23-4. If anyone is interested in 2 each, that's 10-1. I'm obviously quite a big Liverpool fan this weekend, so hopefully a good Liverpool side can turn up and do the business and keep Forest down there.
Yeah, they've drawn the last 3 home games, haven't they, Nottingham Forest? They haven't drawn 4 in a row at home since November, December 1998. Let's talk about Cheltenham, because Crookie's getting very excited about the possibility of going to Cheltenham. Every time we walk into the office, he goes up to Ref, the producer, and says, "Have you sorted out Cheltenham yet? Have you sorted out Cheltenham yet? What time are we going? Have we got my train? Have we got my hotel? How long am I going to be there for? Is it sorted?"
He said to me, he gets a driver as well. Is that right, guys? He gets a driver afterwards?
Yeah,
From
absolutely.
BetMGM get him a driver, apparently?
Yeah, with a little hat and a seat in the back and like free water and all that kind of stuff. Has to be sparkling.
Yeah, we do look after him. We also give him a load of free Guinness as well, which I guess he's probably getting most excited about rather than the racing. But yeah, we're about 2.5 weeks out, and you know, Constitution Hill's in action tonight, Crookie, on the all-weather. And sort of bit of controversy about it. Our mate Charlie Johnston not impressed that Constitution Hill can just rock up and suddenly the prize money goes through the roof for this race, and sort of a bit of 2 fingers from the BHA to the owners and trainers who support the all-weather all year round. I don't necessarily fancy him tonight at 6-4 fab. It's a big old prize pot. Willie sent one over as well. Daddy Longlegs is in the race. Square Necker, the ammo horse, is up there. A true flat horse, if you like. Tripoli Flyer. Billy Loughnane's on board for that. Last seen at Clarence House. Chase Day coming second. I'm not sure what way this race is going to go at all. He is, like I say, he's favourite tonight, and he is 4-1 for the champion hurdle, unbelievably shorter than Golden Ace, last year's winner, who made it round unscathed. Crookie, what's going to happen tonight, and what are your fancies? As we're very much active with the no run and no bet. So for customers, if a horse doesn't take to post, we'll give you your money back. So a really good time to try and spot some anti-post value.
Yeah, I think 6-4 is too short. I think there's too many question marks about Constitution Hill. You can probably say the same about Daddy Longlegs, but I do think Ryan Moore at Southall on a Friday evening for one ride, I think that's where my money would go if I was to have a bet in the race. In terms of Cheltenham, I picked out a little treble for you. Again, I did this fairly hastily this morning, but Gaelic Warrior in the Ryanair, even money looks a decent bet for me. Ran well in the King George. I was on that day. Obviously still entered for the Gold Cup as well, but I think probably the Ryanair more likely. And then a couple of outsiders for you at double-figure prices in the Supreme, the aptly named for Cheltenham, Sober Glory. Beat a good one of Dan Skelton's at Newbury. So I think that's got a chance at around 10-1. And then in the Champion Hurdle, I was attracted to the name for obvious reasons, Alexi, but it's also got Cheltenham form. And Joe Tizard does know how to train a winner around this track, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean that the trebles are massive, 600 to 1, but you can tricksy and add another horse for a lucky 15 and do all those sort of system bets. But aside, I'm probably with you, Gaelic Warrior, with on the Ryanair. He's got to beat Factor File. Banbridge was obviously in the shake-up in the King George, which Gaelic Warrior ran in. The Sober Glory selection, I've backed my daddy Paddy in quite a big way and anti-post, but I was really disappointed with him on Boxing Day because he got well beaten at Aintree. And then for the Champion Hurdle, I don't know, mate, I'm hoping Brighter Days Ahead dodges Lossiemouth. Let Lossiemouth go and win the mares by a mile, get Brighter Days Ahead in that Champion Hurdle, and hopefully she can do what she well, there's a faller in front of her last year, but hopefully she can get over the line. But again, like the shouts for Alexi and Sober Glory at big prices, so definitely some value there for the punters.
Good stuff. Cheers, Matt. Thank you very much. That was a look at the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org.
I'll tell you why I'm not worried. Because if Arteta doesn't win anything this season major, then it has to go. All right?
No, I disagree with that.
No, well, you would, wouldn't you? But we don't sack managers every other week.
But you can't sack a manager who gets to the latter stages of every competition. You can't. You can't.
You can when the pattern emerges.
You can sack them.
The
Would you sack
pattern
him?
emerges. Chelsea did it.
It depends what they do.
When they won things.
John,
Okay, here's a question. Would you sack Arteta if they finish second in
well, what happens in the
Premier
Champions League?
They lose in the final.
What happens in the Carabao Cup?
Lose in the final.
FA Cup?
Lose in the final.
No, mate, he's got to go. You can't.
You're gonna sack him.
You can't get
It's
to
the
three
four finals.
You can't get to three finals and finish second. You can't. That to me tells that is all the evidence. No, you well done. It's a little bit like what Claudio Ranieri done at Chelsea. Chelsea he finished second that season. We beat Arsenal in the semi-final, quarter-final of the Champions League. Got beat by Monaco. Jose comes in. We've gone from second to the quarter-finals to almost winning. We won the title, won the Carabao Cup. Arteta might just be that man. He might be the nearly man. He might be the man, but he might be the nearly man. If he's the nearly man,
well, you'd sack him. You've got to be careful what you wish for, Jake. You built this team for him.
I'm not saying
built this team. And if they don't win it this season, or they finish second and they miss the cup finals, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think you can sack Arteta. I don't, mate.
I think you can.
From where they've come.
It's talkSPORT, Sam Matterface, Alex Crook, who's got some breaking news about Tottenham. Alex.
Yeah, interesting developments on the coaching front at Spurs. Obviously, we know that Igor Tudor will be in the dugout for the first time this weekend. Bruno Soltor, former Chelsea and Brighton assistant, has been added to their coaching staff. He's previously had Spurs, I mentioned, at Chelsea and West Ham, as well as Brighton. Tomislav Rogic has joined as goalkeeping coach. He's previously been at Hajduk Split, Shakhtar, Zenit and Club Brugge. And they've also got a new physical coach in Ricardo Ragnacci. So, yeah, changes being made to the coaching staff.
Yep, ahead of the weekend. This is talkSPORT. And remember, we'll be at the North London Derby, Crook and I, on Sunday to bring you Game Day Live. It starts at 1:30. It's a busy day, actually, of Premier League action. Before that, we're around the grounds with Adrian on Saturday. And Saturday night, we've got the game between Manchester City and Newcastle United. Let's focus on what's happening with Fabian Hertzler and Brighton, because they take on Brentford in what is a big game for them this weekend. There's still a bit of pressure on Hertzler. James Milner, though, set to break the Premier League appearance record this weekend. And Hertzler says despite the fact that they've struggled to put wins on the board recently, he still feels the support of the club.
I think it's very important, and I feel it. So I think not only just words written in the media, I really feel the support, I really feel the belief, I really feel this togetherness. And I think the club went through much worse times where we are now at the moment, and they know how to deal with these kind of situations. And of course, the results aren't great, but we keep focusing on the process. We keep focusing on the things we can influence. We keep focusing on being a great unit, on being together, and then we all have to believe, and I think that's also what the board showed. Then we all have to believe that we can get out of the situation even stronger, and therefore we try to go for it for tomorrow.
That was Fabian Hertzler, who desperately needs a victory after a run where they've only picked up one league win since the beginning of December. Carlos Baleba has outlined how he's getting back to his best after his early season struggles, and boy, do they need him to do so. He gave an interview this week, and he talks about how he will be digging in to get his fitness in. Let's talk to Andoni Iraola, who's also this week been talking about what he's up against. They go to West Ham on Saturday, one of the biggest games of Saturday afternoon in the Premier League. West Ham desperate for points, but Bournemouth too, knowing that they may well still be able to claw their way into a European place, but he's not going to be on the touchline. He says, don't worry about that. That won't affect the game.
I really don't know where I'm going to watch the game. I suppose they are going to put me somewhere there quite far, but I don't think it's going to make a massive difference. We will have Tommy, Sean, Pablo there shouting even more than me, and right now we will be for sure connected with the analysts, and I think we will be fine. And the other two games that I was out, the previous two seasons, we won them probably. It is as a show that probably not as they don't need me as much.
Don't worry, Andoni, they'll definitely put you miles away because that's the only place you can sit is miles away at the London Stadium, I'm afraid. So it's not going to be a particularly comfortable afternoon for you. How much of a difference does it make when your manager's not on the touchline, Gabby?
Sometimes it helps.
Really?
Yes,
Why?
because how many managers are so annoying on the sideline, screaming and shouting and coaching you through the game? Sometimes as a player, you enjoyed playing on the opposite side when you switched over at half-time to be away from the managers. Sometimes it can help. Just depends if the players really need the manager for encouragement. Most players really should be able to go and do it themselves without the manager on the sideline.
Alex, I don't know what you started here, by the way, but I'm getting a lot of messages about Ryland today.
Why? I don't get it.
You don't see it?
No.
I don't. No.
Oh, Ryland,
It's an old reference.
Yeah, spitting image. Yes.
What do you mean? You don't get it 1 second, and the next minute you're a complete convert.
Crookie's just showed me a picture.
I think it's the Just for Men as well, isn't it?
How did you have such a? Answer this question. How did you have instant access to a picture of Ryland on your phone that quickly?
Yeah,
that worries me.
AI. Sam, you Just for Men. There's no problem in that, mate.
I know. I'm the biggest customer.
Yeah, don't touch you, mate.
Right, okay, we'll talk about the rest of the weekend's football coming up as well. We're going to discuss Bukayo Saka's new contract, which he signed this week. And we got Rob Blackburn coming in after 12:30 today. He's a football performance coach, and he talks about how you deal with the pressure in your mind of being a top professional. We'll ask him whether or not he feels that Arsenal are suffering a little bit with that. Plus, we'll get Gabby's take on the big story of the week as UEFA open an investigation into claims that Real Madrid player Vinicius Jr. was racially abused on Tuesday night. This is talkSPORT.
Just unbelievable how things have changed so dramatically just from like a 190-minute game where Arsenal
No,
really...
but it's not 190-minute game, though.
No,
is
it's
it?
not.
It's been a few weeks now.
No, you're right. But if Arsenal win that 2-0 compared to drawing it 2-2, the narrative is so different. The point, it's so... We're talking about now, you said it last night, championship rounds, we are there. We're approaching that time now.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the funny thing, right, is that it's... Man City, right? They're not putting Arsenal under pressure. This is not like Man City and Liverpool going toe to toe, where City win, Liverpool win, City win, Liverpool draw, City win, Liverpool win, City. And do you remember that under Klopp and Pep, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I remember when Chelsea were like going toe to toe with Man United. You know, there'll be that they win, and you have to go. And there's like the points difference was minute, and every result mattered. The only reason that Man City are back in this title race ain't because of Man City. It's because of Arsenal. That's the reason they're back in it. Not that Man City are like putting pressure on them. The only pressure that's coming is from.
So you think it's more about them stumbling than actually?
Yes, 100%. This is not.
But I think
down your neck.
I know, but I think Man City are. They've been look. They're rebuilding, right? They've built a new team.
Yeah.
Arsenal's team was ready to win it, so. Yeah. But I feel like Man City now, this is when Man City come alive.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range, helping business owners to work better and live better. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
A very good afternoon. You're listening to talkSPORT with your sports headlines. I'm Amelia Beltrao. A draw in the Conference League has put pressure on Oliver Glasner. Travelling Palace fans directed sacked in the morning chants at the boss as they extend their poor run of form with one win in 15. But Gabby Agbonlahor thinks the criticism is unfair.
I think he's got some credit in the bank for me. Be careful what you wish for, what that manager has done for that club. Everyone's saying he's the best ever Crystal Palace manager. All of a sudden now, oh no, he's ruined his legacy at the club. That's too much for me.
Morgan Gibbs-White says Forest have bought into what Victor Pereira wants straight away. He kicked off his tenure with a win and a clean sheet against a raucous Fenerbahce. Alex Crooks described the performance as night and day compared to what we've seen in recent games.
The Nottingham Forest players have been mugging off their supporters with their recent performances, because where was that energy and that willingness to run for the cause in the last few games of the Sean Dyche era?
Now, Martin O'Neill reckons Celtic's lack of spending power is holding them back from progressing in Europe.
The money in the game is major. You're talking about Premier League teams and Bundesliga sides, particularly Premier League teams paying £80 million for players don't even get into the team. So that's what you're competing against.
They're all but out of their Europa League knockout playoff after losing to Stuttgart in the first leg at Celtic Park. Park. Norwich City have agreed to sell Josh Sargent to Toronto FC for an MSL record transfer fee. talkSPORT understands it's north of 20 million, which would make him the second highest paid player in the league behind Lionel Messi. And as if Tottenham didn't need to catch any more strays, a Swedish politician used the club as an analogy for Sweden's economic struggles, claiming that the government risks making the country Spursy. There's more at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
The Andrew allegations and scandal continues to draw crisis on the royal family, and there's a new vaccine coming out that should be able to sort out colds. More from the news team at past.
It's talkSPORT. It is Friday afternoon. A very good afternoon to you wherever you're listening to the programme. Thank you very much for joining us. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Gabby Agbonlahor. As always on a Friday. Now, UEFA has opened an investigation into claims that Real Madrid player Vinicius Jr. was racially abused by Benfica's Gianluca Prestiani during a Champions League match on Tuesday. Prestiani, who denies the allegation, could be suspended for a minimum of 10 matches in European competition if he's found guilty for the alleged abuse. Benfica boss Jose Mourinho accused Vinicius of inciting the crowd with his goal celebration during Real's 1-0 win in Lisbon. Benfica defended Prestiani on social media on Wednesday, claiming there was a defamation campaign against the Argentine. Yesterday, in his pre-match press conference ahead of the game against Burnley, Liam Rosenior said anyone found guilty of racism should not be in the game.
It's upsetting. It's upsetting when anyone and there's context that needs to be had in terms of this situation. Always there has to be context to it. What I will say, you can see any form of racism in society, let alone football, is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I cannot speak about an incident where an investigation is ongoing. I won't speak about that incident. What I would say is when you see a player upset, how Vinicius Jr. was upset, normally they're upset for a reason. I've been racially abused myself. I know people have been racially abused. And what people have to understand is when you are judged for something that you should be proud of, it is the worst feeling you can ever possibly imagine. There are historical things to racism. I need to, as manager of this unbelievable football club, make my statement on it. If any player or any coach or any manager's ever found guilty of racism, they shouldn't be in the game. Shouldn't be in the game. It's as simple as that for me. But what I will not do categorically is talk about one incident when there's an ongoing investigation.
That was Liam Rosenior, the Chelsea manager, speaking ahead of his game against Burnley at the weekend. Paul Elliott was on this programme this week saying that any sort of racism in football should be dealt with via criminal prosecution. I'm a little bit worried here, Gabby, because clearly something untoward has gone on. Mbappe heard it, Vinicius heard it. But unless you can prove that Prestiani called him a monkey, which is the allegation, which was repeated by Kylian Mbappe, you are opening yourself up to serious legal challenges. The investigation is going to have to be serious, it's going to have to be thorough, and it's going to have to be robust. Are we a little concerned that this is going to be swept under the carpet? Because UEFA have had a long history of not taking racism seriously.
I'll tell you what, though, if he's able to play on Wednesday night in the Bernabeu, that's going to be a hell of an atmosphere for the Benfica players. But I'm with you. I just look at Vinicius Jr.'s reaction, the way he ran over to the referee, the way he sat on the bench for 10 minutes, didn't come back on. You're not doing that unless you've been racially abused. Come on, everyone agrees. But, like you said, Sam, it's what can you prove? And because he's put his shirt over his mouth, can FIFA, UEFA, can they prove that he said it? Do they have to bring a rule in and say, now you can't cover your mouth? Because a lot of players have been doing it, covering your mouth. Shirt over your mouth, or you cover your mouth with your hand, straight red card.
Well, that's what Joe Cole said on Tuesday night, wasn't it? He said that, it's too many players are hiding behind their shirts and their hands. And actually, if you're just saying something that isn't offensive, then you don't need to put your hands over your mouth anyway. You shouldn't. There's no reason why you should be covering your mouth unless you can't justify what you're saying. And in that case, because, as he said, footballers are role models, all the eyes of the world are on you. If you decide to cover your mouth, it's cowardly.
Yeah, and do you know what else is cowardly? Is the comments from Jose Mourinho. I mean, he's done some pretty low things over the course of his managerial career. We all remember him berating Anthony Taylor after that European final when he was at Roma. But I found his comments utterly abhorrent, really. To come out and accuse Vinicius Junior of inciting this incident with his celebration, I thought was completely wrong, but not a massive surprise, unfortunately.
Well, it's interesting to see how UEFA deal with it because, as you say, the idea of Prestiani going back and playing against Real Madrid this week seems a little bit, unnecessary and provocative, really, doesn't it? Shouldn't there be an immediate intervention from UEFA to stop that from happening?
I think there should be. The players should definitely not be able to play the game. And I think it was Clarence Seedorf, who was outstanding, by the way, on Amazon Prime when he spoke about it after the game. Is there a case that, if this happens, allegedly, the player gets taken off the pitch during the game, and that allows the game to go on, but the player has been substituted, and then you deal with the investigation afterwards. But I'm with Crookie.
But if the referee had heard the racism, then he should have sent him off straight away. But I don't think that was the case.
No, I'm saying if the way Vinicius Junior has gone over there, that automatically should be you've been alleged to have said something racial abuse to a player. Okay, you've got to be substituted straight away. That allows the game to carry on. It doesn't allow 10 minutes for the game to be interrupted. But I'm with Crookie Sam on the comments from Mourinho. And Mourinho, one of the best managers of our generation. But I'll tell you what, he's lost a lot of fans. He's lost a lot of neutral fans. And I just felt his comments were disgusting. For one, Vinicius Junior, if he wants to run to the corner flag and do a dance that a lot of Brazilian players do. Yep. Cunha danced when he scored against Arsenal. Didn't receive racial abuse from anybody, any player. So Vinicius Junior is allowed to dance. And also, Eusebio is one of our best ever players. This club cannot be racist. What does that mean? Because your best ever player was black. That means no one else can be racist to do with your football club. And also, no one says Benfica was a racist football club, did they? It was alleged that a player had been racist. So why is Mourinho protecting the football club when no one's said that Benfica are a racist football club? Very odd.
Well, Benfica are not a homogenous group, are they? They're made up of individuals, and Prestiani is his own individual, and he's the one who's accused of the racism. It's not like everyone's accusing the club of it. It just seems a little bit strange that now Benfica have come out in support of him, almost suggesting that there is sort of a defamation campaign against him. And the problem here is that we'll never be able to prove the contrary, because all you've got is eyewitness statements of people who say that they've heard it. But if he sits there and says, "Oh, I didn't say that," or "I didn't mean that," then there is very difficult to prove. Like lots of different cases across the world, if you're in a court of law, you have to prove it in order to punish, and that is a real worry. Because if you think that if he has said something racist and gets away with it, then that sets a precedent, doesn't it? And that's why we're saying about the idea that you've got 100%. To rule out this covering of the mouth when players are talking to one another, because otherwise it opens it up for scrutiny.
I think that's what we love about football, isn't it? How, things do happen and then change does happen. Maybe now we have this law that comes in now, like you just says, and Joe Cole mentioned, if you cover your mouth or you put your shirt over your mouth, straight red card. Because a lot of the players, they're not saying racial things, but they are saying crazy swear words. You do see a lot of the South American players that go at each other, even Otamendi and Vinicius Junior during the game, covering their mouths and giving each other some. I think that rule needs to come in place ASAP, and that will make every player not do it. That's the only option, isn't it, Crookie?
Yeah.
What else can you do?
Absolutely. And the point you made about the players being role models for the younger generation, like it or not, kids do copy what they see.
Of course they do.
I think at the very least that rule needs to come in as soon as possible. But you're both right in what you say. It's a very difficult allegation to prove, isn't it?
Later on in that press conference that Liam Rosenior gave, he talked a little bit about Liam Delap and the fact that he had struggled to make his mark at Chelsea during a difficult first season at the club. Delap scored just one Premier League goal since his move to Chelsea from Ipswich last summer. Injuries certainly haven't helped his cause, Gabby, but is there such a thing as a good striker that doesn't score goals, as Rosenior sort of said? Because you're a striker.
No, because you think you're funny, Sam, because I'm a striker, didn't score goals. Okay. No,
I never said that. You were Aston Villa's record Premier League scorer.
I know what you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do, Sam. No, but jokes aside, we said it a few weeks ago, didn't we, about Delap? I think I said that was Everton the sort of move he should have done first. You know, go to Everton for 2 years and score 15 Premier League goals and then make the move to a big club like Chelsea. But 1 goal in the Premier League in 17 appearances, and in 24 games in all comps, only 2 goals, when João Pedro has been so prolific. Is the move to Chelsea too big for Liam Delap? You know, because I thought he was a fantastic player for Ipswich, and I was thinking to myself, he's got every chance of getting into this World Cup squad, but it hasn't really worked for him.
Why do you think it hasn't worked, Crook?
Don't know if he's quite on the level, to be honest. I think maybe, as Gabby has said previously, he needed to go somewhere else first and then make this step up. Obviously, he's been unlucky with injuries, some of them potentially self-inflicted because of the way that he plays the game. He got a red card as well, didn't he, earlier in the season that stunted his progress. But I don't see him as someone who's going to be the number 9 week in, week out for Chelsea. And if you're talking about forcing his way into that England World Cup squad, you have to be playing every minute of every game, don't you?
João Pedro, on the other hand, seems to be reborn by the arrival of Liam Rosenior. 6 goals in his past 8 games. He scored 16 goals in all competitions.
Chelsea's your club,
We've got
Sam.
to try
What
and
do you
get
think
the
of Delap?
Well, of Delap,
yeah.
I think he's had some good contributions in games against Hull City on Friday night. I was there for that one. He got a hat-trick of assists in that match. He had a good game against Fulham. Crook saying he's not at the level, and I think maybe the suggestion is that he performs against teams like that.
Yeah.
You know, when he's he's up against a side that aren't at the very top level. But he is still a young player. He's only 22, 23 years of age, so he's got time to develop, and maybe next season he'll kick on. But at the moment, João Pedro should be the lead striker because he's the one in form and scoring goals for fun. And if he can get another couple against Burnley this weekend, then Chelsea are in a good position to get to the Champions League. What they do need is someone who they can trust to put the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. And right now, their best bet is João Pedro.
Yeah, and it's not a surprise that he's responding to Liam Rosenior. There was that clip, wasn't there, when I think one of them was being interviewed on television and the other sort of got in the background. They had an embrace. He's the type of player, João Pedro, needs an arm around the shoulder. He got that with Roberto De Zerbi at Brighton, not so much from Fabian Herzler, which I think was one of the reasons his form tailed off last season. Enzo Maresca isn't that sort of cuddly, feely coach either, but Liam Rosenior clearly is. And I'm pleased because I actually tipped him as an outside shout for Golden Boot in the Premier League at the start of the season. It's taken him a while to get going, but I think he's a top player, João Pedro.
Yeah, you also had a little pop at him when he wasn't scoring goals as well, if I remember, in the autumn time. Just saying, not that you flip-flop very often. We've had quite a few text messages coming. In fact, Simon Crabtree, who is one of our contributors here, was talking about Oz Majic, who was the Preston player who was banned for quite a lengthy time for racial abuse without any proof, and he was done on the balance of probability for abusing Hannibal Medbury. You may remember that. But that was at the FA and not UEFA. So I think there is a stark difference there. But it'd be interesting to see how they handle it. And we've had loads of text messages that are coming in. Jack Hammond saying, not rocket science, mic the players up, only to be used for instance like this.
Yep.
He's in Ludlow. Simon says, can you raise the point of Enzo Fernandez making racial jibes? Liam Rosenior still picks him. Now, this is after Enzo Fernandez was accused of uninhibited racism by his teammate Wesley Fofana for a video posted to his social media account after Argentina beat Colombia 1-0 in the Copa America final. It was about a song that they sang, and he said he didn't really understand when he was singing it. Chelsea took no action against Fernandez following the internal disciplinary procedure, and no punishment was handed out by the Premier League, the FA, or UEFA.
What I don't get as well, though, is that Benfica, so many black players, How do they feel in all of this? Do they want to play with this player again? Do they want him in their team? Has he caused friction in the dressing room? And it's 2026, Sam and Alex, and we're still discussing this. Like, what? We're still discussing this. Really? Vinicius Junior scores a fantastic goal. It was a tough game. Both teams.
There was an edge to it as well,
Yeah.
after what happened in the final game of the league phase. We shouldn't forget that.
Exactly. And,
but there's
and it's what we're
nothing
talking
wrong
about.
with having an edge to a football match. There's nothing wrong with celebrating. It's a highly passionate and highly emotional game. But if you lower yourself to the base level of racist abuse, then you should be subject to having the book thrown at you. And you should probably not play in the Champions League again. It's the highest honour to be able to play in the best club competition in the world. You're playing for a historic club like Benfica, who have got a wonderful history of producing talent from the black community. And if you are found guilty of racial abuse, you should be dismissed without prejudice straight away, like you would be, by the way, in any other form of employment. This is talkSPORT.
Got to talk about Celtic. You know that the title. I don't. You've been away, right? The title's blown open now. Celtic favourites, Rangers second favourite, Hearts third.
Yeah.
And I've been whinging, right? And maybe I shouldn't because I don't go regular now. But I've been whinging about Celtic's lack of creation in midfield. It really annoyed me. I'm looking at the midfield saying, "Come on, we're better than that." Anyway, they got absolutely gubbed last night. But what I didn't know was, right from the first whistle, the old tennis balls.
Yeah. Martin O'Neill said something about it.
All I'm saying is this, right? I'm not trying to cover up a shocking result. Celtic got pumped, absolutely pumped, 4-1. But I'm not talking about that because Stuttgart are probably a decent side, better than Celtic.
Yeah.
It doesn't do the players any good when you start that carry on.
Well, it gives the away team a lift as well.
As Martin said, Stuttgart players would know about the atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, all these tennis balls come on, they're saying, "Oh, lovely."
We were talking about. I think Martin was talking about when Juventus, they were scared to go to Celtic Park. You know, the atmosphere, the hostility, all that sort of stuff. It's not an easy place to go and play, probably as a European side, but they make it probably easier.
I'm going to upset a few now. Celtic fans, did you throw a tennis ball after the first kick? Yeah, I'm sorry. I know you're very disappointed the way things are going now.
The bold and all that sort of stuff.
For God's sake, it doesn't do it before the game and after the game, not during the game, honestly.
Inside Series on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Watch the latest Inside Series episode live on talkSPORT's YouTube channel now. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
talkSPORT, Sam Matterface and Alex Crook with Gabby Agbonlahor this morning. And this week, Jermaine Pennant, Paul Smith and Sam Ellard have been discussing Mo Salah's numbers this season on the latest episode of Inside Liverpool. They say his worst season is still better than other teams' star players. Don't forget, you can watch all the latest Inside Series episodes live on talkSPORT's YouTube channel right now. That's all thanks to BetMGM, 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Inside Series on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Watch the latest Inside Series episode live on talkSPORT's YouTube channel now. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
We here at talkSPORT are reporting this in the last few minutes that Crystal Palace are considering the future of their manager, Oliver Glasner. We understand that they are discussing it at present. The Eagles have won only one of their last 15 games, and Glasner has already decided to leave at the end of the season. He's come under fire from fans. He's also been talking to the media this morning, and he didn't sound too positive about his future.
We're not in the best moment right now, and to be honest, it's like now, and I understand. I take responsibility for everything because I'm responsible for the whole team, and it's right now. You know, I'm just not good enough to replace the players we sold. I'm just not good enough to integrate the new players in a way that we can play the same way like we did. And I'm not good enough that we can cope with the schedule we had. On the other side, I think I was good enough to have to play the best season ever, to win 2 trophies, and also to look back. We have now 32 games, 32 points after 26 games, and I looked back because I like to look back sometimes. In the last 10 years, Crystal Palace has been better twice. This was 33 points, so once was our season last year, and the other one was, I think, in 2021. Never before it was more or less between 25 and 29 points all the time. So it looks like we are even now where everybody is completely angry, disappointed, frustrated. We are playing a better Premier League season than 8 of the last 10 seasons Crystal Palace has played. We're playing European football, and that's also the other reality.
You've said that you've not been good enough in the last few weeks. Are you confident that you can be good enough to lead this side until the end of the season?
Oh, let's see. I always said, and this was, I think, the first press conference that why I can just repeat myself, you know. And as I said, you know, as a manager, you always depend on your players, and they will get all the support like always, and then we will see.
Do you still want to be here until the end of the season?
Oh, let's see what the future brings. We never know.
Who knows what the future brings? We never know. Well, we don't know, do we, as of yet? But he sounds like a man who is desperate to make an exit, Alex Crook.
He's laying down the gauntlet for the second time, isn't he? But basically saying, I want out. When he says, I'm not good enough to get the best out of the new players, not good enough to replace the old players. And it's ironic, isn't it? Because I think when we exited the transfer window, he was quite positive about the players that had come in. And I think one of his press conferences early in the window, he was quite complimentary of Steve Parish for the fact he managed to get the Brennan Johnson deal over the line early in the window. So this, to me, smacks of a manager in self-preservation mode. He's saying, it's not my fault. And by the way, look, we're still having a pretty good season compared to what Palace have done in the past.
He's right.
I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to integrate the new players. I'm not good enough to cope with the schedule that we've got. I mean, at the end of the day, is this the kind of message the Crystal Palace fans want to hear after a dismal performance in Mostar last night, Gabby?
When you're speaking like that, those comments there, he's got to go ASAP. Get it done next couple of hours, because if you're an owner, you're saying, hang on.
We said that to you this morning. You said it wasn't the answer.
No, but when you hear these comments that he's come out with now, to say he cannot get the best out of the players that have come in, if that those words just come out of his mouth, then as an owner, you've got no choice now. You have to say, like, okay, he's coming out now publicly and saying he can't get the best out of top players as well, by the way. Brennan Johnson is a very good player. Okay, you can't get the best out
of him. Is he daring the board to sack him?
It sounds
100%.
It sounds like it. And by the way, I know that they missed out on Dwight McNeil. That deal didn't quite get over the line on deadline day. but there was a lot of optimism in the Palace hierarchy because of the addition of Brennan Johnson, because Jurgen Strand-Larsen has come in and obviously scored a couple of excellent goals, Guessond as well, and they kept Mateta. He's not fit at the moment, but should be back sometime soon. They feel there are more than enough weapons in that Palace team to be winning games of football, and one winning 15 is not good enough.
It feels like he's playing chicken a little bit with the hierarchy, isn't he? Because he's saying, I'm not good enough at the moment. I can't do this job. It's very hard for me, blah, blah, blah. And Palace are in a situation where they're obviously like, well, you've already said you're going to leave at the end of the season. You've got a contract to fulfill. You need to fulfill that. Yeah. We're not just going to pay you up for the sake of paying you up so you can have a 3-month holiday and prepare yourself for a new job. Quite rightly so, by the way. But at the same time, Palace are in a predicament where they've won 1 game in 15. They might go out of Europe if they don't buck their ideas up next Thursday. And they don't want to lose to Wolves on Sunday either, because if that happens, they could find themselves in a relegation battle. So they're in a sort of catch-22 situation. He knows that, and he's daring them, Gabby.
Yeah, but in that press conference, he's going to lose the fans, those that were still standing by him. He's going to lose the ownership, and he's probably going to lose the players as well if he's turning around saying, "Look, I'm not good enough for you guys anymore."
Arguably, Crook, they've all that had already happened though,
and he's got form for this. If you go back to his previous employments, this is not the first time he's sort of gone to war with a hierarchy, and it probably won't be the last, and that's why he won't get a top job.
When you're going back and finding out records of Crystal Palace in the Premier League and how many points they've got at this stage, like, come on. It wouldn't surprise me, Sam Crookie, if you went round his house and his bags were already packed.
Yeah. He's checked out, hasn't he? Yeah. And that confirms it. And, I think they're going to have to make a change. Yeah. And as we've said, we understand that they are contemplating making that change.
03717 22 33 44. What happens next at Crystal Palace? Palace fans, you just heard those comments from your manager. How's your reaction now? 81089 on the text. I imagine what it's like for those Palace fans that have made that trip to Mostar last night. They had to go via somewhere else in order to get home. So they had to go to Sarajevo or Dubrovnik, do a 2-hour drive in order to get from the airport to Mostar. Not always the easiest place to navigate around as well. They were caged up high up into what was a very open ground last night, got rained on for 2 hours over the course of the game. And then they saw a dismal performance like that. And then they get back this morning and hear that their manager says, well, I'm not good enough. 03717 22 33 44 is the number to call. If you want to get in touch, Crystal Palace fans, you can text us 81089. This is talkSPORT.
Do you doubt that Jermaine can take Moses Atoma into the later rounds?
I think he's going to get knocked out. I do. I think I just know. And by the way, saying someone's going to get knocked out is not meant to be disrespectful. I'm not disrespecting Jermaine. I'm looking at the fight, looking at Moses Atoma, looking at what I've seen from Jermaine. And I think that ideally, I don't want to see an early fight. I want to see a good fight. I want to see Jermaine stick it on Moses Atoma. I want to see a good fight. And ultimately, we have an enjoyable evening watching two good fighters put something out. But I think Moses, I don't think he's been in with someone as quick and as fast and at this stage in his career. Going in with Anthony Joshua and Dillian White at their stages in their career is not the same going in with Moses. But on the other side of it, Moses isn't as experienced and as wise as those two fighters.
And that's
so there's a trade-off. But I think, personally, with due respect to the man sitting next to me, I think he's going to get knocked out by Moses.
But there's nothing to suggest that he will get knocked out because he's never been knocked down, never been knocked out.
And I'm happy to be wrong.
No, but what I'm saying
is
he's been, yeah, absolutely. But I say he had been in at the time with Anthony Joshua. Yeah, he was on a rebuild and a comeback, but that kid can whack, and he's still very, very dangerous. And Jermaine took some flush shots from him.
The big question about Anthony at that fight, and it's always been about Anthony, was he gun shy? And there was,
he was letting the shots
there was
go,
an
though.
allegation at that fight. He was getting himself through that fight. Moses Atoma won't navigate this fight.
I made
But we'll
him
see.
gun shy. See, that's the difference between skills and just watching it. I made him fight that way. It wasn't
Fair
that
enough.
he had to fight that.
Fair enough.
I made it that way.
Fair enough.
It's different when you're in the ring.
Of course.
You know, so like everybody expects Moses to come out and fight this way or do this.
A win and a clean sheet in Europe while being unfazed by a hostile reception in Istanbul is an impressive start to the Vitor Pereira regime at Nottingham Forest. They beat Fenerbahce to put them on the verge of sealing the last 16, but it's a quick turnaround before their next test against Liverpool. Meanwhile, Martin O'Neill has slammed Celtic fan protests, which halted their Europa League loss to Stuttgart. Protesters threw tennis balls onto the pitch inside the opening seconds to highlight their frustration with the club's board.
Anybody who thinks that's a good idea needs their heads examining. One, it disrupts the game for a start, obviously. And secondly, if I'm a Stuttgart player, I'm thinking, yeah, well, don't feel too bad here. Don't feel too bad, instead of being intimidated by the situation.
That match marked O'Neill's 1,000th game as a manager. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace fans taunted Oliver Glasner with sacked in the morning chants after a drab draw with Zrinski in the Conference League. Their slump worsened to 1 win in 15. It's the Steel City derby on Sunday as United host Wednesday. Even a win might not be enough to keep the Owls out of relegation, and Steve Bracknell knows it's going to be tough.
This could be our darkest hour. And one day, when this club recovers, we'll remember that day.
Yeah.
We'll remember that day. And we'll look back on it and go, yeah, I were there.
And in Italy, Great Britain are guaranteed at least silver in the men's curling. They beat Switzerland and will now face Canada in the final.
And live football never stops on talkSPORT. We've got Blackburn's game tonight. Could be bad news for Sheffield Wednesday if they win that match. Tomorrow, live coverage of Manchester City against Newcastle is on talkSPORT from 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Of course, we're round the grounds throughout the day with Adrian Durham as well. That programme starting at 1:30. There'll be lots of discussion, I'm sure, over the day about the comments from Oliver Glasner that he's made in the last few minutes after a dismal showing in the Conference League last night. He's come out this morning and said he's not good enough to manage the club. He's not good enough to deal with the schedule. He's not good enough to integrate the new players. He hasn't been good enough to get performances out of the team. Taylor and Mike are just one of many callers that have got in touch on 03717223344 immediately after hearing those comments. This is from Hugh in Hereford, who says Palace should sack Glasner without compensation ASAP. If he pushes back, then just play that press conference back to him and show him that he's admitted that he's not good enough to do the job. Effectively, that's a resignation. Taylor, you're a Crystal Palace fan. What do you think?
It's a disgrace, to be honest with you, mate. I mean, yes, last year was amazing, took us to the FA Cup win. But, you know, we've got to look at the times in the present where we are now. And, you know, one win in 15, it's been, you know, I'm a season ticket holder, I go home and away. It's dismal, mate. Watching it, you can see that he's lost the players. You know, I think the fans, we've seen this coming for a little while now. And it's just painful to watch, mate. You know, put him out of his misery. He doesn't want to be there. You know, it's time to move on, I think, personally.
03717223344. Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate that. Hi, Sam and guys. Glasner was hoping to put himself in the shop window, but who'll touch him now? Certainly not a big club. He's tarnished his reputation, says one texter. Alex, Gabby, does he come across as a manager who is trying to, I don't know, instill some sort of self-preservation, or does he come across as arrogant and ego-minded, basically suggesting that he is better than the football club.
Exactly the words that I was about to use. He comes across as someone who thinks he's bigger than the football club, and I think it's all rather sad. You know, if you go back to that brilliant afternoon at Wembley in May, Crystal Palace winning their first major silverware. I think everybody who wasn't a Manchester City or a Brighton fan celebrated that. I think it was brilliant for English football. Then they go and beat Liverpool in the Community Shield, play in Europe for the first time. This should have been a historic season, and because of Oliver Glasner's conduct, it isn't turning out that way. And I do think, as I mentioned earlier, there is a fair amount of self-preservation about this. I would imagine the Crystal Palace hierarchy once again are going to be absolutely fuming with their manager, and this feels like the point of no return for me.
Yeah, and the problem here, Gabby, is that you've got a situation where whether or not it's Palace's fault in some part, because they should have maybe have got rid of him when talks happened back in October and he informed them that he wasn't going to be part of their future. Maybe they should have just cut their losses then. Yes. But actually, it feels like with less than 48 hours to go before they play against Wolverhampton Wanderers, which is a massive game in the Premier League, less than a week to go before their next knockout tie in Europe. And by the way, they've never played a knockout tie in Europe before. This is their first experience of it. That you've got disruption and discord in the dressing room. They've almost been forced now to act. It's put the club in a very, very difficult position at a major junction in their season, hasn't it?
Yeah, his comments a few weeks ago, he could have easily got sacked for those comments, but Steve Parish didn't make that decision. But when you start saying that new signings, you know, you're not good enough to get them playing how you want.
After praising the board in an initial press conference for signing Brennan Johnson early.
It just shows that you want to be sacked, your bags are packed, you want out. And you look at Crystal Palace. I remember being at the Villa game. I don't know if I've done it with you, Sam, early on in the season at Villa Park, where they beat Aston Villa. It looks like such a good team. Look at the players they've still got available. Pino, he's been off it, hasn't he? But a very good player. Sarr's back, fit, scoring goals. Johnson, Strand Larson, Wharton, Kamada in midfield. They've still got a team on any day can put in a performance against anyone in the Premier League. So the performances they've been putting in, one in 15... one win in 15 is not good enough. And like you both said earlier, and I was wrong, the players are obviously not playing for him.
And this is a guy who's managed to get knocked out of the FA Cup by Macclesfield. Yes. I mean, talk about after the Lord Mayor's show, the high of winning the cup and then to be absolutely humiliated. And to not win last night against the team, let's be honest, Sam, you never heard of them before the draw was made. We're never going to hear of them again after next week.
Well, isn't it a shame?
It's absolutely right, Gabby. It is a shame. It's dispiriting because a club like Crystal Palace have never had a moment like the FA Cup final before. That day at Wembley, I was there that day. I commentated on the game. The explosion of joy at the full-time whistle. And by the way, they rode their luck a little bit. Dean Henderson might have been penalised on a different day. Yes, they got a very good goal, but they played really well over the course of a 90 minutes against an excellent Manchester City side. They got the job done by hook or by crook, and they celebrated like it meant the world. Because to them, it did mean the world. It was their first ever major trophy. You fast forward, 8-9 months, and all of a sudden, the place is in disarray. Now, there is some fault on Steve Parish and the board for maybe not finishing with the talent that they required at the beginning of the season. But also, Oliver Glasner needs to understand that he's managing Crystal Palace. Yep. And Crystal Palace have a certain place in the food chain, don't they? And yes, they want to aspire to be better. Yes, they want to build to be better. That's why they've managed to win the FA Cup and get into Europe. But ultimately, they still have to act within certain constraints. And he should have known that.
And actually, this is history repeating. Oliver Glasner, as Frankfurt manager, wins the Europa League. I was there in Seville alongside Jim White when they beat Rangers. The following season, they reached the German Cup final. But the board decided to part company because they got fed up with his public outbursts. He came out and criticised the board for not investing in the squad. He claimed there was a lack of quality in the squad. Sound familiar?
Ego problem. When you win silverware, does his ego get out of control? Because like you said there, Sam, and Simon Jordan said the same months ago, you knew what you were signing up for at Crystal Palace. They're not going to keep hold of Eze. They're not going to keep hold of...
And they broke the transfer record twice in the winter window.
They're not going to keep hold of Elise. They're going to sell their best players and try and recruit younger players that can be the next Eze, be the next Gahey, Elise. So you knew what you was getting in for.
And it's his
just
job to
shut up and
develop
do your
those
job.
talents
Exactly.
that are coming through as
Yeah.
well. I think the only person all this at Crystal Palace is harming long term is Oliver Glasner, says Jack. Palace have enough to stay up and even completely off it should walk the Conference League. But Glasner is doing his reputation real damage here. As a Spurs fan and us being linked with him recently, I wouldn't have minded him, but absolutely no chance he gets on with our owners for long and throws a massive wobbler. So for me, no thank you, Mr. Glasner. More and more managers these days throwing their toys out of the pram. Is it owners getting worse? Are managers just getting more and more entitled? Or is it something else? That's from Jack decorating in Harlow. Jamie says, after the last outburst, I still thought that Glasner deserved time for what he's done for us. After today, it is time to go. He obviously doesn't want to be there anymore, but it's just holding out for a payout, making himself looking completely amateur and no doubt putting off bigger clubs where he may have got a move with his actions. Richard says, I'm a West Ham fan. I've got no skin in this game. But the trouble with Crystal Palace, his manager, is that they have to pay him $4 million plus to get rid of him properly. And that's sad for Palace fans. They're the ones who will be left behind. We always seem to reward failure in the Premier League. And this one finally hasn't got a name on it. Glasner said, Glasner obviously wants a couple of months paid holiday before starting a new job. He's trying his best to get sacked, but I'd make him work to the end. Keep them coming. 03717 22 33 44 is the number to call. You can get in touch with us via WhatsApp and you can text us as well. We're going to be lucky enough to be joined in the studio very shortly by Rob Blackburn, the football performance coach, who's coming in next.
The question from me to you, Simon, is how much can your image be diminished in 8 months? Now they're coming out, the woodwork. One source has told Telegraph Sport. Thomas Frank was constantly going on to the players about Arsenal, and they quickly get sick of it. Even before and after the game at the Emirates, he was telling them how good Arsenal were. The feeling among some was very much, just shut up about Arsenal. Elsewhere, reports suggest that after Spurs lost to Arsenal in November, Thomas Frank warned the squad about a drop in standards. The next day, multiple players turned up late to training, including the captain, Romero.
And what does that say about the professionalism of people? Are you trotting that out for whoever's trotting that out? Isn't pouring necessarily a bad light just on Thomas Frank. He's pouring a bad light on the people themselves. The players. I don't know whether Thomas Frank is so unaware, so obtuse in his thinking that he would spend his entire time consumed speaking about Arsenal as their biggest rival in terms of using Arsenal in the conversations. Is he that stupid? He doesn't strike me as that sort of stupid.
No.
Players that come out and say things or use agents or media hounds to say things to, I have no respect for. The fact
a coffee out an Arsenal Cup, but I mean that was a mistake.
Yeah, and that's why they're perhaps steering into that opportunity. Has he been diminished? Of course he's been diminished. Life is not linear. Success isn't always a straight line. You go up and down, and most people have lots of faith.
is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Gabby Agbonlahor on a Friday. Now, we like to try and educate ourselves, and I'm delighted to say that football performance coach Rob Blackburn is about to do that for us. He's a former Chelsea youth goalkeeper. He works with professional footballers, managers, organisations to help them build confidence and sharpen their decision-making and leadership skills. His book, Smarter, Not Harder, Maximise Your Elite Inner Performance, is required for Gabby. So if we can get him a copy between now and the end of the show, that'd be great. Rob, thanks very much for coming into the studio. I appreciate that.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I've got one in my bag. I'll send it.
Oh, good, right. If you can get it to Gab, that'd be brilliant.
Can't do that.
Look, one of the things that we was talking about just then was about the impact on the players of uncertainty in the dressing room. I know that this sort of strays a little bit into your area. Oliver Glasner coming out with comments like that in the media. Oliver Glasner looking as if he's trying to get sacked. How does that affect the dressing room mindset? How is that going to affect certain players going into a week of which could define Crystal Palace's season?
Well, I think it does, because all players require certainty. So we're constantly looking for certainty. And if there's uncertainty, it creates negative thoughts, negative stories. So it's a really hard one. I'd say players require certainty. I don't know what you think as well. Like, it's looking for certainty. They're constantly looking for certainty.
Yeah, 100%. And when a manager's speaking like this, especially for the players that he's brought in, if you're Brennan Johnson and Strand Larson, your manager's saying you can't get the best out of you as a player, how's your mind going to feel? Yeah,
exactly. It's playing tricks on your mind. And players, as you know, struggle with negative thoughts, constant negative thinking. People think that, and you'll see it on social media. Social media is another one, that players have got it all sorted and they're really confident. But underneath, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear of the unknown, and that's what it brings. I think it brings a fear of the unknown as well.
Yes.
Rob, and I think that's something that happens in every walk of life, isn't it? When you're not entirely certain of your position, or you're checking yourself because you're worried about external criticism, it takes you a little bit longer to process, to make decisions, to make the right decisions. And that can affect your performance, especially at the high-end elite level of football, when you have to make instantaneous, momentary decisions that affect the outcome of games.
Yeah, 100%. I said players, they notice everything. They do read. They read the comments on social media. They look for it, and it's only going to affect things negatively, in my opinion. So,
how much do you think mentality is going to determine the outcome of this Premier League title race? Because Arsenal, not in a great vein of form. Obviously, they've seen their lead at the top of the table dwindle down. If Manchester City beat Newcastle, as most of us expect them to on Saturday night, there's going to be real scoreboard pressure going into this North London derby. I've been at the Emirates this season when the crowd have got really nervous. Is that going to have a negative impact for the Arsenal players themselves?
Well, it depends, doesn't it? So, but you saw pressure does funny things. So I always say pressure can make diamonds, but it can also burst pipes. So you saw it at the end of the Wolves game, the pressure spilling over to the players. So it's all about keeping calm, and you're trying to calm things down, because obviously they'll be reading stuff as well. You know, they always get labelled as the bottlers, don't they? Constantly.
And their fans actually blame the media for that. You know, we're the ones who create the issue, as opposed to the players not performing themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And as I said, they read it, they notice it, they take it in. So if you're Arteta, you're just trying to keep things calm, and that you say, look, what can you control? What's in your control at the moment? Everything out of your control, you've got to kind of let go, which is hard. It's not easy. If it was easy, everyone could do it. But it's keeping things calm and just saying the right messages, I think, in my opinion.
Can I?
Having someone who worked with someone like Luca Nine at Sunderland, you worked with Luton's boss, Jack Wilshere, you worked with Wrexham's Elliot Lee, amongst other players. Mm-hmm. What would you be saying to that Arsenal team going into the last few weeks of the title race? How would you tell them to quieten the noise? How would you get them to get on board with the mechanisms and the little tricks that you can have to quieten your mind and to make sure that they were in a serene place? What would you do?
Well, they've got world-class people inside that football club who's hopefully telling them what to do. But I think it's about quieting the noise, the external noise, because the external noise gets to you. So it's taking away social media, focusing on the things that you can focus on. I think so many players focus on the things outside of themselves rather than focusing on the things they can do. So for me, I'd be focusing on what can I control? What can I do? What's in my control? Rather than listening to Twitter, listening to Facebook, it's just all noise. And you can focus on what's relevant and what's irrelevant. And I know players do it. So I know players, they do read it. They do read it. They look for it. They have a game. They start searching it. And it's completely natural because we're searching for that certainty. Even if we play well, you're still looking for it. And then you'll see that one negative comment and you're human. Like, you're human. It does affect you. One negative comment. I don't know if you noticed it. Did it affect you?
No, definitely. I mean, it was different for me back then. It was a lot of just newspapers, not as much social media. But the players do look at it a lot. But I want to ask you a question about young players coming through academies or players that broke into first teams. When I played and I was in the academy, there were players that were a lot better than me that didn't make it. Does it show that sometimes players haven't got that mental discipline? Is that something that you would work on with players, that you need to keep your feet on the ground, otherwise you won't go and make it into the first team, even though you're better than players that do make it?
100%. I can speak to players, I don't want to name any names, but I've spoken to them on the phone and they've rang me and they've contacted me and I say it's the X factor. You're like, he's got it. There's 3 things. So it's resilience, massive one. How do you react when things go wrong? How do you react to mistakes? How do you react to adversity? Because football's constant unknown, constant uncertainty. It's self-awareness, emotional intelligence, commitment to grow and learn. And I think there's 2 other keys as well that are massive, which is belief and optimism. So you see it in players now. Just talked about Luke. I've seen him come from Sunderland. You see his journey from Sunderland till I die, where he got, dragged at half time. And he worked harder and harder and harder. And what he actually needed to do was work a bit smarter. And work on his mentality.
I went to Sheffield Wednesday at 19, and the loan went that bad. I was playing reserve team football on loan. Come back to Villa, knuckled down, injuries, suspensions, got my Villa debut, scored, and then stayed in the first team all the way through. Sometimes, like you said, disappointment, mentally you have to process that and go again, don't you?
Yeah, so you can look at it a different way. So that's what I do. I try to flip the way people see things. So people think failure's bad. I'm like, you can actually get confidence from failure if you have a better relationship with failure, because if you're going to make mistakes every game, you're going to cost the team. And it's about having that acceptance, call it acceptance mentality, acceptance that you're going to make mistakes, you're going to get criticised, you're going to get judged. And the higher you go, the higher the criticism and the judgment. And it's being able to deal with that. And you'll see some players, and I have seen players who have got, who they say are talented, and you speak to them and you go, I'm not sure. And you can hear it in the players that want to do it. They're looking for that extra edge, the 1%. But it's not just what they do on the pitch, it's what they do off the pitch too. So players put loads of time in on the grass, but what do you do away from the pitch? And that's the mentality.
Is it about the support mechanism as well? You know, having people around you who are going to point out your flaws and not just tell you day in, day out that you're brilliant?
Yeah, I think so. It's having someone that you can trust. So I work in groups with pros because I think if one of the biggest problems in football is dealing with judgment, if we can talk about it in a group, when as soon as you hear someone else say, or a pro footballer go, yeah, I struggle with that, you go, oh my God, I feel better. You automatically feel better when people come out. That's the reason I wrote the book, to have players' stories in there as well. To go, if I'm struggling and they write about it, other players can see it as well. But yeah, it's huge. I think it makes such a difference working on the mental side of football. And there's different ways you can do that, in my opinion.
In your book, you talk a little bit about the building systems for the mind. If you could strip back an athlete's mental preparation to a short routine before they were to walk out in the tunnel, what would it look like, and why would you do it that way?
So first of all, it changes with your body language. So I'll start with your body language, like how you're sitting, how you're holding yourself. I've seen players before in the tunnel repeating over and over, don't make a mistake, don't make a mistake, don't make a mistake. And all they can focus on is making a mistake. So it starts with your internal language, but I actually think it starts pre that in the week. It's all about your preparation. How do you prepare? So I get players journaling, I get them talking, WhatsApp group. So it's all about the preparation before you go in. But if you have a system, it's actually looking at the language that you say to yourself, standing tall in the tunnel, because I think your psychology changes through your physiology. So you'll see players at half-time down, or you can watch them in the tunnel. So you're like, right, actually, just get your just change something, change your state. So it's state management. But there's a lot of deeper stuff that goes into this that works behind the scenes that takes a good few weeks, and it's a constant process. It's like going out on the pitch, you're constantly training on it, and then training on the mental side off the pitch too. It's a constant process that never ends. It's a never-ending journey, and the players that do it more often are the ones that are, in my opinion, more successful. It's the ability to take risks and have courage, because most players, they go, I want more confidence. I need more confidence. And I say, listen, sometimes you don't need more confidence, you need more courage. And confidence is the byproduct of having courage. So actually, be okay with making mistakes. Be okay with failing. You'll see players, they want to hide, where I give them permission to go and make mistakes. And when you free yourself from that, you actually play better football.
It's interesting, and it'll be fascinating to read the book, which is called Smarter, Not Harder, Maximise Your Elite Inner Performance. And Gabby's got a copy now, which is good news, because we're looking forward to him maximising his performance on this programme over the course of the rest of the season.
You just enjoy your holiday in Bosnia, mate.
If you call it a holiday, I call it a working assignment, but that's absolutely fine. It'd be nice for you to get out of the studio and go to a game every now and again, and not in a
we got a break, by the way. So,
Crook, thank you very much. I'll see you on Sunday for the 4:30 down the North London derby. Looking forward to that. I'll be back tomorrow night with the game between Manchester City and Newcastle live on talkSPORT. It's one of a number of games over the weekend. Our live coverage starts tonight with the game at Ewood Park on talkSPORT 2. All the football, all the time. You know it makes sense. It's got to be talkSPORT. And Danny Kelly and Andy Jacobs are coming up next.